brought Pauper Text to the party. Pauper. I brought Pauper Text to the party.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 43 of the PDH Pod, the one and only Magic the Gathering podcast dedicated to the total exploration of the Pauper Commander format. I am your host, BradDracV, and let's see what my co-hosts from the East Coast are up to first. Dave the Alcadron Vader, how was your week?
Our week was really good. I'm really busy with work, but I am hanging in there, and I am delighted to be here now to discuss some very exciting topics with you.
Yeah, some brand new cards. Is it well, let me introduce Liam first. Next up is Liam, the PDH PhD. How's it going?
It's going. Life is chaos incarnate right now. Trying to wrap up school.
That's what I was going to ask. Like as teachers, as we get into spring and then towards April, May, June, does it just get more and more chaotic until it's done?
This is actually the point where it starts to kind of ease up a bit. Teachers are finalizing plans for the rest of the year, and the just kind of riding the wave out. At least in my area. I don't know about Dave.
For me, my term 3 ends tomorrow.
Oh, see, our term three ended last week. So
yeah, so I'm scrambling right now to make sure that I get my final term exams finished in such a way that like the kids who are absent still have a time to take it before the term ends,
right?
And like making sure that they all can turn in their late work and like just grading that. So like my desk is just this horror show minefield mess of late work
yeah.
and like tests that I haven't given, and like the whole thing is a crazy mess. But then tomorrow it'll be over and I can just take it all home and grade it and then be done.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I think I interrupted.
So that was me last week. But now that we've started term 4, it's kind of just riding the wave till the end. But I'm trying to wrap up all my personal schoolwork, all my homework before I leave the country. So, that's what I'm doing right now. Well, not physically right now, but that's what I'm doing when I'm done recording.
I missed what it was that you were doing. You're getting
I'm
ready
getting ready to leave the country.
You're leaving, right?
Leaving the country for 2
Yes.
weeks.
Yeah.
So this is everyone's warning that the next 2 episodes, 44 and 45, I will not be present, but I will be here for episode 46 and beyond.
Yep.
It is. Yeah. I am getting married. I'm leaving the country, and I will be back. I promise.
I don't know. You might have a good time over there.
I might not be back. I don't know. We'll find out. But I intend to be back. But yeah.
That's the plan anyway.
My current life is wrapping up homework and all that jazz before I go, because I'm leaving the country for 2 weeks. I'm not just leaving the pod behind. I'm leaving classes and homework, and all that needs to be done before I go.
Yeah, you're leaving everything behind for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah,
I am rather envious, actually.
Yeah, I mean
sounds like a hell of a time.
It's gonna be fun when it's happening, but the preparation I have to do is insane. Because turns out, leaving your 40-hour week job plus your 40-hour week classes at the same time for 2 weeks, it's pretty rough. 10 out of 10 would not recommend.
I think you'll manage though. Sounds like it'll be worth it.
It will be.
Yeah, you'll be missed though. You'll be missed. That's for sure. I'm sure the pals will miss you.
I hope they do.
All right, good stuff. Let's do
How's
a
your
little bit
week,
of
Brad?
housekeeping. Oh, mine. Oh, hello. It was good. Good. Actually, like getting over, I guess, what people call like. I don't want to go as far as to say like seasonal depression, but I hate wintertime, like with a passion. I completely hate it. It's just, and we don't really get snow here anymore. We get like a few inches of snow, maybe 8 to 10 inches of snow spread out through the entire winter. Like half of it will come at once, and then the other half is just spread out. We'll get like a quarter inch a week, and it's super annoying. Like if it's going to be single digits or in the teens, I want it to be snowed in. Like it's not worth it to be cold without snow. And it's always gray and cold. I just hate the cold in general. So it's starting to warm up here, but it's that time of year where it does warm up, so every other day some severe thunderstorm warning, tornado warning, etc., etc. If you're listening to this and you were hit by the tornadoes, please be safe. I hope you're safe. I think some hit in Iowa, southern Missouri, Arkansas, all that stuff. So it's been a typical May, April area, but still, it's always kind of terrible.
That's rough.
Yeah. Some up in the Northeast too, I think. But
When
anyway,
when I was up in northern Michigan, I used to live with a woman who had seasonal affective disorder, and she would spend the whole winter with this visor that just blasted UV light onto her face all day long. And
oh, did it work?
yeah, yeah, it was helpful.
Huh.
Like
That's
a huge
interesting.
part for her, a huge part of the seasonal affective disorder was that like what up in the northern edge of the Upper Peninsula, like
Sure.
during February, like it gets dark at like 4 o'clock, 3:30,
Uh-huh.
and
Yep.
it the sun doesn't come up until like 10, like so
Oh,
so
no
like
way.
yeah, that contributes, just not seeing the sun like ever. It just
Yeah, it
contributes
kills me.
enormously to a lot of people's seasonal affective, and like just blasting UV light into your face helps a lot.
Yeah, and you don't, at least for me, like I don't even realize it until we get a sunny day. And I'm like, it's like the angels came out. Like I'm all rejuvenated and I feel better and like, I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, try light therapy.
Yeah, that is I'm going to make a note of that right now, actually, in my phone so I don't forget it. That's interesting. I'll have to look that up. Oh, all right. Well, as usual, we got to do some housekeeping before we get on to the big main topic this week. And if you like the show and you like what we're doing here, check us out over on Patreon. We'd appreciate that quite a bit at patreon.com/the PDH Pod. We're pretty much the PDH Pod anywhere you want to find us. By being a patron, you get access to the pre-show, which is usually just a short recording of us catching up for the week. I don't know why I leave the word short in there. When we do have a pre-show, it's usually like an hour long. So it's basically like a bonus episode each and every week. And then I usually post the show notes and the episode on Patreon, so you have early access to them if that's your sort of thing, or you can have the show notes to follow along with the episode, and that's always kind of fun. We usually link the card images and that sort of thing, so it's usually pretty fun. We've gotten good feedback about doing that. And then you also get access to the PDH Pod Discord, where you can get in and chat with us, get help with your decks, just have kind of overall good conversation there. Seems like every couple days the Discord grows by a member or two, and it's always a good time. So someone's always brewing something in there, and it's usually good conversation. So all hours of the night too. I think we have some international members in there, and that's always fun. And then, of course, we're the PDH Pod on YouTube as well. Check us out over there. And then check out the Saturday streams, the PDH streams on Twitch. You guessed it, we're the PDH Pod there as well. And I think that covers the housekeeping. What do we got for this week in Magic, Liam?
This week in Magic, we have much of the Machine spoilers, much of the Machine Commander spoilers, Multiverse Legends spoilers. But wait, that is this week's topic, so more on that in a second.
Yeah.
And the other thing is Themberchild. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. For those of you who watched the D&D movie in the last week and a half, you will know about the big, stupid, chubby dragon that's in the Undercity, the Underdark, that chased the party around. And it was leaked today, slash spoiled, I don't know which, but it was revealed
The
today in
card
some
image makes it
manner.
look like it was a leak.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Either way, yeah.
at some point today, and today being the recording date, the bonus card for the D&D Secret Lair was spoiled to be the big stupid dirtly dragon from the movie,
He is
which makes
big and
me
stupid and dirtily.
so happy. It makes me so happy. I was half afraid it was going to be the evil witch, and I was like, yeah, that seems too obvious. It's got to be the dragon, right? It's got to be the dragon. And it absolutely is the dragon, and it makes me so happy. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you were pretty happy about that. I was surprised. I saw you in the Discord chatting it up.
Yeah, I mean, I was joking. I was like, this almost makes me want to buy the Secret Lair, except the fact that I don't want any of the actual cards in the Secret Lair. So I will just be buying this single.
Yep, I thought they had you. I thought they were going to get you on a Secret Lair purchase.
Yeah, not this time.
Not today.
Try as they might.
Right. Oh, they will try. Yeah, they're gonna keep trying. Cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. It is time for the main topic. I don't know about you two, but I know it hasn't been, but it feels like it has been forever since we got a new set. And I think that's just more or less conditioning now with the way WotC releases product, but it feels like we've not done a set review in a long time.
It
honestly.
feels like it's been a minute, but it feels like that should be the correct amount of time. Like
Yeah,
it
I agree with you.
it does feel like it's less frequent than it was happening, at the end of last year, but also like the end of last year was exhausting. And so
Oh, it was
I'm
just nonstop.
I'm
Yeah.
delighted to
Now,
have had that time off.
this break since the last new set, is this part of what that fireside chat they had where they're like, we're going to slow down product release, yada, yada, yada? Is this part of that, or is it just timing?
I think it's just timing, because any business decision they make is going to take 2 years to put into effect.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Well, and any card design decisions they make is going to take 2 years. Any business decision could have a turnaround time of as quick as 6 to 12 months, because they could always say, like, hey, this thing we announced, we're pushing it back. It could be, but the fireside chat was too recently for it to be making an impact on this set.
Honestly, I'm pretty hyped about it, and it seems to be pretty good, pretty powerful. So from all rarity levels, but we only care about the commons and uncommons. And WotC listened to our request. They called me personally and said, "Hey, do you want all the commons? Do you want them dumped before you record on Wednesday?" And I said, "Yeah, let's do that." So they went ahead and the full image gallery dropped today. So they are fresh off the digital presses. What were you gonna say?
If it makes you and Dave feel better, the last set review we did was episode 34 for All Will Be One, which was 9 episodes ago.
So it has been a minute.
Yes. And the
Cool.
next one looks to be Lord of the Rings in June, which will be 10 episodes from
late
now.
June.
Yeah.
Or I guess mid to late June with the actual set review. But yeah, there are I feel like there's a ton of playable cards in here. A lot of, at least on first blush, a lot of good cards in here. I know I follow a lot of 60 card Pauper players on Twitter, and many of them were kind of down on this set because they didn't get quote unquote, new cards for Pauper, yada yada yada. But I feel like we got a lot of very good usable cards in this set. What do you think, Dave?
I think this set is kind of nuts. Like
It really
we
is.
we had some time off in one. The Phyrexia All Will Be One had like a lot of very parasitic mechanics that like seemed like they would be really fun and limited, and they were. I enjoyed one's limited environment pretty well, but like we had so many like oil counter cards and so many like toxic is only really good in a toxic deck things that like
Right.
the cards that came out in that, like I didn't have to make huge crazy piles of updates to my decks. Like I just this morning I was looking through the mom spoilers and I was like, I am in for a whirlwind. Like I'm not
Yeah,
gonna.
that's a lot. There's a lot of cards here to update your almost 100 decks.
Yeah, I'm gonna lose a lot of sleep getting that done. Yeah, there's
good
some.
time.
600 decks treating you now.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, mistakes have been made.
Awesome. Yeah, right.
Wizards, of course. I take no responsibility for this.
Right.
Right, they've made too many fun commanders.
Exactly.
It's
That's
not your fault.
like, see, you get me. Like
Yeah, you get it. You get it.
I don't have enough skills of self-reflection to be able to like not blame this on someone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's you can always find a scapegoat.
You can
That's
always
right. We have
blame it on someone
microphones,
else.
damn it. We can blame whoever we want.
That's correct.
Exactly.
Power
Listen,
to the people.
if Gavin wants to fight me about this, he can just come on the show and we can discuss it then. But
I think it's as easy as that. I think you just get him on the show and have it out.
until Gavin shows up, then it's his fault.
Yeah, it's our show.
Those are the rules.
Them's the rules of podcasting, bro. Well, cool. I think we should just move right into some new fun cards. We're not going to do an entire set review. We're not going to go over every single uncommon creature and every single common, but we did make individual lists of things that we're going to play with, brew around, add to existing decks, that sort of thing. It looks like we got about 42 brand new uncommon creatures to play with. The majority of them, like Dave mentioned, the oil counters and whatnot, the majority of them are going to care about set-specific mechanics, so probably not very playable in our format. But, you never know. You may find something for them. Or if they print battle cards in the future at Common, they may actually pop up again and you can use them. But for the most part, all three of us picked about 5 commanders to go over and then a handful of commons that we want to talk about. And then we got a handful of reprints at Common. None of them we're really going to talk too much about. They just all have really sweet art. The Gainlands art, the new art on the Gainlands, I should say, is excellent. It looks really, really good. And in the commander sets, it looks like we got as of recording, we don't have, or Scryfall anyway, doesn't have all the images for the commander sets. But Liam, I don't think I've seen it yet. You said we got new art for Cloud of Fairies and Distant Melody?
Yep. It's not currently in Scryfall, so I can't link it into the show notes, but they do have new artwork. If you're a Patreon, you would have noticed in our preview channel earlier when I dropped.
Okay, yep. I think I scrolled past it, or I saw I saw the notification that you posted, and I forgot to look at it. I'm pretty excited about a new Distant Melody. That's pretty cool. So yeah, and then we got a bunch of reprinted commanders with sweet treatments, sweet showcase art, new flavor text in the Multiverse Legends bonus sheet, which should be showing up in just about every single pack that they sell. So look for those too if you've already got a deck built around, I don't know, Finn. Finn got a really cool new treatment, new art this time around. So look out for stuff like that. But outside of that, I think we just need to hop into some new cards. What do you think?
I'm ready for some new cards.
All right, who wants to start? Should I start? I'm on the left here, from left to right. Should I go first?
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, my commanders. We're gonna start with the commanders. Mine are not in any sort of particular order. They're just sort of like how they popped out to me when I was perusing them on Skyfall. But my first one here
do you want to do all 5 of yours and then all 5 of someone else's, or do you want to rotate through?
Let's rotate.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, let's do that. I'll do one, you do one, Liam. Yeah. We'll snake through the list. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my first one is a mono black Rat Samurai for 3 and a black. It's a 3/3 Nezumi Freewheeler. It has Menace, and when Nezumi Freewheeler enters the battlefield, each player mills 3 cards. And I actually said mono black earlier. It is an Orzhov commander because it has activated ability of 5 and a white Phyrexian mana. You can transform the Freewheeler only as a sorcery. And on the backside, it is a 4/5 with Menace that says, when this creature transforms into Hideous Flesh Wheeler, put target permanent card with mana value 2 or less from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. I've been in love with this card since the second I saw it. I think it was yesterday or the day before. And it was one of those that I read at first. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's a Hero of the Dunes type thing, or, but it only hits 2 mana things. And the more I read it, it kept getting better and better. It's target permanent. So if you want to get lands, that's fine. If you want to get anything up to 2 mana, that's fine. And it's from a graveyard, not just your graveyard. So I think that is very intriguing, especially when it's in white and black. Those colors have a lot of removal, have a lot of mill, so more than likely your opponent's graveyards are going to be full of goodies as well. So I'm a huge fan of this one. What's that?
So this is an Orzhov Flicker deck or an Orzhov Kill Your Own Commander deck? Is that what I'm understanding? Because the ability only triggers when it transforms.
So yeah, you're going to have to maybe build in some sacrifice. You can do the Grave Flicker shenanigan. Yeah. And it is expensive. I mean, it's at least 5 mana and 2 life to transform. So it's not going to happen all the time.
Or just 6 mana.
Or just 6 mana. Sure.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that like the first 1 or 2 times you do this, you're just targeting a Capenna Sackland or a E-Wilds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just hitting those land drops so that you can do it more often later. The big question about this guy that I have, Brad, is what's your plan for covering up the art on the back?
I have no plan. I'm going to
no.
blow it up and look at it all the time.
Oh, no.
It's a Phyrexian rat. Let's see, on the front side,
it's
it
a
is
Phyrexian
a rat samurai.
Motorcycle.
Yeah.
With goofy tentacle arms.
I know, and it's amazing. It's like Eldritch Horror Phyrexian craziness. I love it
so much.
Those tentacle arms. Those aren't little suckers. The teeth.
Those are
oh my god!
Those are teeth.
Okay,
Dave. Teeth.
We're talking about something else now. I am here to tell you
about
my favorite commander from this set, is called Zarek's Strobe Knight. This is a mono blue 3 mana 2/2 human knight with flying and vigilance, which already not bad. We're better
Not
than
bad.
Windrake already.
Yep.
He has this bizarre ability that nothing else is quite like this. You can tap it to create a 2/2 white and blue knight creature token with vigilance, which is pretty crazy. You just tap
That is
this guy to
crazy.
make a body. Like, and it's not a small body. 2/2 with vigilance. That's a chunk. The catch is you can only activate this ability if you've cast 2 or more spells this turn.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when one of those spells untaps a creature?
What happens if
Right.
both of those spells untap a
Right.
creature?
True.
You can here's the plan. You
'Cause
cast
it doesn't say resolve. You cast. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's on cast.
you cast Twiddle, you hold priority, you respond to your own Twiddle with Twitch, both
Yep.
targeting the Strobe Knight. With you hold priority again. With both of those spells on the stack, you tap this guy to make a knight. Twitch resolves, untaps him, you draw a card. Tap him to make a knight. Twiddle resolves, untaps him, tap him to make a knight.
That's a lot of
What
power
the
on the board.
That's
for
a
like
lot
2
of
mana.
power on the board.
In blue.
In
no less.
blue. I'm
Yeah,
excited
that's
about
crazy.
this
So
card.
what's the plan after that? Just control
Uh,
magic and
Mono blue
resurrecting spells
stompy,
to your
yeah.
hand?
No, Sunken City and Mightstone.
Sunken City, my
If I
son. Yep.
if I play enough
100%.
Twitches and Jolts,
Fair enough.
I will eventually draw into Sunken City and or Mightstone. Sky Shaper, that's the plan.
Yep, Sky Shaper. I love me a good Sky Shaper turn.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, Liam. What's your first commander you're excited to build around?
I'm actually equally excited about all of my commandos, and
Mhm.
there are too many in this set that I want to build, so I picked a few of them. But yeah, I'm gonna build the heck out of this set, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The first one that I've chosen is Kami of Whispered Hopes. So it's 2 and a green for a 1/1, and it's a spirit, and it says tap, add X mana of any one color where X is Kami of Whispered Hopes power. For any EDH aficionados out there, that's a Gaio Sage, which is a rare. But the card
I prefer to think
the
of it
card
as a
doesn't
Cradle Clear Cutter, but yeah, go ahead.
Fair enough. But it doesn't stop there. It also has the ability if one or more +1/+1 counters will be put on a permanent you control, that many +1 are put on that permanent instead. And that's a hardened scales.
Yeah,
which
it
is
sure is.
also a rare. So they put the text of a rare enchantment and the text of a rare creature together.
Yep.
On an uncommon creature.
Yep. On a
Granted-
green.
Granted, it's a 1/1, but this creature wants to be pumped up with counters because of its own ability to produce mana. And in addition, the counter addition ability doesn't say other permanent. Putting a +1/+1 counter on the Kami will result in 2 +1/+1 counters being put on
Right,
the Kami.
exactly.
This is going to get out of hand quickly, and this excites me.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. And it's a
it's a-
spirit. Like, how many mono green spirits do we have? That's so
yeah,
cool.
Right. But for our patrons who get the pre-show will know that I am in love with Voltron strategies, which tend to go down one of two routes: equipment or +1/+1 counters.
Yep.
Nothing will get me to build a commander faster than if it says one of those two things on it.
If you just dump counters on it.
So my commander wanting me to dump counters on it. This is looking like it's going to resurrect my old Mowu deck. I had Mowu built for a while and I took it apart because it was so centered on Mowu.
Yeah.
But the Kami feels like I'll be able to build up the Kami and then I can build up something else. And I'm kind of excited for that. So yeah.
I'm excited for you. We don't often get to hear you super excited about a particular commander, so it should be fun.
This one looks interesting.
I read this card and I loved it. The only reason that I'm not like as thrilled as Liam is about it right now is that within the last like 5 months, I have built Cradle Clear Cutter, which also taps to add its mana. That's so. Liam just said he loves Voltron that either does +1/+1 counters or equipment. Cradle Clear Cutter is this deck with equipment. Like you just put axes on him and then tap him for mana. And then I built Pure Strain Gene Stealer as my green Warhammer 40k deck, which is also big mana +1/+1 counters proliferate synergies.
Mm,
Like
Nice.
he doesn't tap to add mana, but he every time he attacks, you pull a +1/+1 counter off him, the land fetch,
yeah.
and
Oh,
so he just does that forever, and also turns into a big mana +1/+1 counters stompy deck. So like I already have both halves of this, and I don't need to mash those together into a third one. But I am really
Yeah,
excited about
absolutely.
like what this card's gonna do. I'm
yeah. I don't. Same here. I don't know that I'll build it, but I can't wait to see it on the table on the
exactly.
battlefield.
I want to play against Liam's.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I guess we're back around to me. Well, if you have been on social media at all, you have probably already well familiar with this next card, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. It is Kenra Spell Spear. For 1 in red, you get a 2/2 Jackal Warrior with Trample and Prowess. It's fine, 2/2 Trample, Prowess. But it also transforms for 3 and a Phyrexian blue. You get a Phyrexian Jackal named Gitaxian Spellstalker, which is a 3/3 with Trample, Ward 2, Prowess, and Prowess.
You said prowess twice.
Yeah, it's printed twice on the card. I think it was an error, but it just kind of went out like that. So they're rolling with it.
That's
But no, it
amazing.
says each instance of prowess triggers separately. This is gonna get nutty. I mean, I know we just got third path iconoclast, and we got some decent is it commanders out of Dominaria, Brothers War, that sort of thing. But this one, iconoclast may still be better, but this one just hits a little bit different for me. It's got one of my favorite keywords on there, and it's got it twice, so that's amazing. It's got Ward 2, which eventually, by the later turns, Ward 2 is not that big of a deal.
You're
You just tap your Sisay's Ring or whatever, and that pays for the ward.
you're expecting games with this commander to get to the later
Well,
turns?
Yeah.
Do we
that's a very good point.
do we know what Assault Strobe does?
Yeah, it does give double strike.
And +2/+2, and the thing already tramples.
So
Not a
that'd
bad way to
be
spend 1 mana.
2, 4, 5, 6 double strike, 9 double strike with trample. Okay, cool.
Yeah, no
That
big deal.
seems good.
That's fine.
And to get that, you need 2, 5 total mana and a Phyrexian or another blue. So 5 or 6 mana.
What's hilarious to me is how overcosted some of these transform cards feel and how undercosted this one's feels.
Yeah, this one, it's by a full 2 mana cheaper than the first one I mentioned.
Yeah, like
That's
some
insane.
some of these cards, the commons and the uncommons, are 3 to 5 mana to cast, 4 to 7 mana to flip, and this one's just like, oh yeah, we cast for 2 and flip for 4. It's like, what?
Hmm.
With trample, ward 2, and double prowess, you flip for 4?
That's it.
Like
Yeah.
I would happily pay 6 mana for an uncommon creature that just said 3/3 trample, ward 2, prowess.
I was just thinking that same thing. If this was its own creature all on its own, I would expect that to cost at least 5 mana. 6,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah. But no, we get it for 4. 3 if you want to pay 2 life. So that's wild. So expect that to be in a lot. I would say this is going to be one of the more brewed around commanders. This will be one of the ones you see more often right after the set releases. So just be prepared
100%.
for it. But should be fun. I don't know if it'll replace my Iconoclast deck. I just love what Iconoclast does, but man, prowess is something to be reckoned with, I think. And that's all. That's all I got on the Spell Spear. What do you got, Dave?
My next card is something that I'm excited about mechanically. This
Mhm.
is called Furnace Gremlin. This is a
Great name.
2 mana mono red 1/2 Phyrexian Gremlin with honestly outstanding art. I complain a lot about how
It
much
really
I
is.
hate Phyrexian aesthetic. That hatred ends abruptly at the Great Furnace. I love Urabrask's entire deal.
Yeah.
So
Because
Furnace
it's very
Gremlin,
like it's not straight up Phyrexian. It's like demonic Phyrexians.
yeah,
Yeah.
They're very metal. They're very heavy metal.
it feels like from that first Thor movie, there was the villain was like the Devastator or something, some like lots of banded strips of metal with like an obvious furnace on the inside. Like I
Yeah.
love that
Yeah.
aesthetic, and that's what
The
this
destroyer.
Destroyer, sure, yeah. So this 2 mana 1/2 has 2 abilities. First ability is Bad Fire Breathing. You can spend 1 and a red to give it +1/+0 until end of turn. Second ability, when it dies, incubate X, where X is its power. We
have not had incubate yet.
We need to talk about incubate. Incubate is an ability that comes up on a lot of different cards in the set. Incubate X means, or incubate any number, means that you are going to create an artifact token with that many +1/+1 counters on it. So incubate 3 creates a artifact.
0/0 artifact token. Yep.
No, it's not a 0/0 because it's not a creature at all.
Oh,
just an artifact.
Okay, yeah. Yep.
With 3 +1/+1 counters on it, and it has the ability for 2 mana. You can transform it into a 0/0.
There we go.
And it keeps those counters. So you get artifacts that you can, if you have artifact synergy, sub-theme, whatever, you can sacrifice the artifacts, do whatever you want. If you're doing a creature go wide deck, you can flip them into creatures for an extra 2 mana and get an army. If you're proliferating, you can give them lots of counters. This guy...
And this isn't like, I've seen a couple of people mention it, this is not like Amass, where all your tokens have to go on that Amass zombie.
Right.
Like you can have multiple, incubator tokens.
If you incubate a bunch of different times, each of those creates a different token copy. So some of you may already know, I am an enthusiastic fan of what I call axe tribal decks. These are decks that are just about putting axes on creatures. So like I have the Cradle Clear Cutter I mentioned is axe tribal. You just hand axes to the lumberjack, and then you get absurd amounts of mana.
This gremlin looks like he could hold at least 3.
He's got 3 arms and what is probably a prehensile tail. So I think he's best with 3, possibly 4 axes.
That works.
Which includes things like Volshock Gauntlets for +4/+2, or Volshock Morningstar for +2/+2, or Granite Grip. Granite Grip is an honorary axe for +X/+0, where X is the number of mountains you control. I just feel like it's effortless to make this guy into like an 8-power creature.
Oh, easy.
And then you swing with him, and like you don't care that he dies. Someone's like, I block it with my Death Touch, and you're like, cool.
Cool, great. I get a gigantic creature.
Thanks, man. I'll recast him for 4.
You just give me an 8/8 artifact creature.
Right?
Thanks.
Like give me another turn to put all these axes back on him, but
right.
Right? Like this one seems fun.
It does. It seems super fun.
I just now looked up the art on the Phyrexian Incubator token, and unsurprisingly, I think it's terrible and I hate it. So about 2 minutes ago, I made the executive decision that if I build this deck, I'm just going to buy a bunch of like really cheap Pokemon cards, and I'm going to put like Execute. No, not Execute. What's the egg? What's the egg Pokemon? There's just a bunch of eggs in a pile.
Gosh, I think it's Execute.
It is Execute. Yeah, Execute's the baby one. That's just a bunch of eggs in a pile. And then
Executor is the tree.
Yeah, I'm gonna put Alolan Executors into the other side of the sleeve, so I can flip it over to an Alolan Executor, and then it's big.
Yes.
Nice, good call.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my plan.
I like it. That sounds like a good plan. You are a fan of your axes.
I do love axes, and so does...
They are hilarious and absurdly powerful sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, Liam, what's your next commander?
Well, I'm going to go a little bit out of order because both of you just talked about a mono red commander, so I'm going to talk about a mono red commander. Rocket Raccoon has grabbed my attention. And for those of you who have been following spoilers, you know exactly who I'm talking about. For those of you who have not followed spoilers, this card is actually called Scrappy Bruiser. For 3 and a red, you get a 3/4 Raccoon Warrior. And whenever Scrappy Bruiser attacks, up to 1 target attacking creature gets +2/+0, gains trample, and then you return that creature to its owner's hand at the end of combat. This commander has me interested in building kind of just like mono red ETB, where you get all the effects. Like, say, you gain the initiative, you gain the monarch, you get the cascade. Like, just attacking, hitting you for 6 to 8 damage with a trampler that probably doesn't die, and then returning it to my hand at the end of combat to later play in main phase 2.
Yeah.
Not at the end of turn, at the end of combat. to get to play that thing again at the end of main phase 2 and build up my board, like especially the Cascade, getting to build up my board in main phase 2 after I attack, and getting 1, maybe 2 blockers out.
Yeah,
I'm
main
looking
phase
forward to
1
this.
boarding party, main phase 2 boarding party. That sounds good.
Yeah. I am very much looking forward to building this and figuring out the little niches that need to be figured out.
Yeah, it's got a lot of stuff going on for it, which I think is nice. It gives a creature +2/+0 and trample. It cares about, I don't know if it specifically cares about, but it works well with ETB abilities. Like,
Yeah,
there's just a lot going on here, and I think that's going to make for a fun commander.
I think it'll be really fun.
Because this could end up being one of those that no two people build it the same. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem as linear as a lot of like monocolored commanders do.
Not only could it be one of those where no two people build it the same, it could be one of those commanders where you take two people who built this, put the decks side by side, and the only thing identical is the commander and the basic mountain.
Right.
Like the other 90 something cards could be entirely different between two decks of this, and that's what excites me.
Yep.
I like the raccoon guy. I think he's going to be very fun.
Yeah, I sort of glazed over him at first, but I think you both have sold me on it.
I don't know why I'm selling you on it. I'm the one building it.
Touche.
I've claimed it, Brad. You can't have it.
Oh, that's right.
It's mine.
Damn it. I forgot that was the deal.
That's how this works.
All right. My next one. Hey, look at that. It's another mono red commander. It is Axguard Artisan, a dwarf artificer for a generic and a red. It's a 2/1. And whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on Axguard Artisan for the first time each turn, create a treasure token.
Whew.
So this seems a little more linear than the raccoon, and the for the first time each turn is not ideal. But I think there's some room here to wiggle. I think there's some stuff here that can be done to have fun. I literally have not even mentally brewed a deck for this, so I'm not sure what sort of +1/+1 counter options we even have in mono red / artifacts. I know there's like Armory of Iroas and there's Weapons Rack, that sort of thing. But I don't know, some Metalcraft synergies, some Affinity synergies, all that kind of good stuff. So it would probably end up being one of those that I built and played once or twice. I think Dave mentioned this sort of deck a few episodes ago where you played a couple times, you're like, oh, I guess this is all it really does, so I'm done playing this deck. But I think those 1 or 2 games are going to be super fun, so I'm kind of excited to build this one. What do you think, Dave? Do you like treasures and counters and mono red?
I like Reckless Fireweaver and Ingenious Artillerist.
Yeah? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do. I love red artifact decks. I do too. This is going to be a good one of those. Because there's a lot of like very unassuming cards like Ecologist Terrarium that I think are going to do work for you here. And like
that does major work in Herd Bailoff. I love it.
Yeah. That the Terrarium is going to trigger your Fireweaver, and then it's going to put a counter on this, which is going to make a treasure, which is going to trigger your Fireweaver. And then like that's just going to deal enough damage that you can makeshift munitions everyone to death. One hopes.
Yeah. Yeah, even if you just save the treasure tokens for your munitions or whatever.
Or save them for a fireball.
A huge fireball.
Mono red do be doing that damage.
Mono red do be liking the fireballs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. We got to go super deep dive on the Artisan, but I thought he was interesting. I'm not usually drawn to, I don't know, basic mono red commanders, but this one seems like it's got some room to play around with. All right, Dave, what do you got for us?
Oh, it's back around to me already.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we're still talking about red. Red.
Yep. Imagine that. A set built around a multiverse war has a lot of red in it.
So Torment was all black cards. March of Machines is
all red
cards.
There's a lot of angry people.
Yeah. I'm excited to tell you about. So I have a list of like five commanders I'm excited about. This is the first and the only one on my list that is a signpost uncommon. We are talking right now about Stormclaw Rager, which is not mono red. It is red. It's Rakdos colored. It is 3 mana, 1 a black and a red for a 2/2 ogre warrior who aesthetically looks like they are from Tarkir, part of the Kolaghan's crew.
Okay.
formerly the Mardu. They have one ability. It is for 1 mana, sacrifice another creature or artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on the Rager, and draw a card. Activate only as a sorcery. So, speaking of makeshift munitions,
Yeah, for sure.
this is vaguely sort of similar. We're gonna pay mana, we're gonna sacrifice artifacts and creatures, and we're just gonna get this Stormclaw Rager really, really aggressively big, and we're gonna draw cards for doing it, which
Yeah.
is pretty great. Seems like a good deal.
It does seem like a good deal. I think this was one. I think this one ticks a lot of boxes for a lot of people because I got tagged on Twitter by 2 different people that I don't normally interact with as far as Pauper Commander goes, but they both wanted to talk about this card in specific.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thunk that sacrificing creatures, making one gigantic creature, and drawing cards was popular, huh?
Yeah. It reminds me, there's a squirrel that did something similar from,
Ravenous Squirrel?
yeah,
Scroll from MH2.
yeah. That one costs a lot more mana to sacrifice the thing, I think.
I think it's just 2.
Is it? I thought it was.
Let me see. 3. It's 1 black and a green.
Oh, is it 3? Jeez.
But you draw a card and gain a life, and you can sacrifice an artifact or a creature.
Yeah, same as the Storm.
Oh yeah,
Stormclaw.
yeah, it's worded that way. Creature.
I'd rather
or
have
artifact, yeah.
I'd rather have the counter than the life, and
The squirrel gets the counter as well.
2
And the
additional
squirrel-
mana.
The squirrel you could do at instant speed for what it's worth.
Yeah,
Fair. Oh, the
No,
squirrel
I
has
think-
another ability that gives it counters. Okay.
yeah. The
Yeah,
squirrel
yeah.
also
Mhm.
gets the counter, draws a card, so you're paying extra mana for instant speed and to gain a life. And it's the squirrel's black green, the orc is black red. But
Right.
I think they're very similar. I think they're both very powerful
Mm-hmm.
Voltron
Absolutely.
decks that can go big.
Yep. Now see, my jank butt read this, and it's in Rakdos, and I get to sacrifice creatures to draw cards. I just want to steal people's stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
I just want to threaten tribal again and watch it collapse.
yeah. That's a good way to do it. That's how I built my Yuri deck. Steals things.
Love it. All right, that's the Rager. What do you got, Liam?
I am stepping outside of red, and
Illegal.
Can't
Yeah.
do it.
I'm stepping. I'm building on Dave's black red with black and blue for Halo Forager.
Mm-hmm.
This is 1 blue and a black for a 3/1 fairy rogue with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you may pay X. When you do, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with mana value X, not X or less, just the exact,
Mhm.
from a graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into a graveyard, exile it instead. So, Halo Forger ETBs, you get to flashback an instant or sorcery from anyone's graveyard.
Yeah, from a graveyard. Yeah.
I am so pumped to build this.
Yeah, and it doesn't say, when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it.
Yeah,
It's just a flicker target. Yeah.
It's just a flicker target. I am. This is my style of flicker deck, so I am definitely building this. And I know when it was spoiled, it got a lot of attention immediately.
Mhm.
Like everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, what is this?"
Right.
And to boot with the fact it has amazing artwork.
Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, that is
The
amazing.
artist Kevin Sidharta is actually new to Magic with Much Machines. They have 5 cards.
Yep.
One of which we'll get to a little bit later, but like this art is amazing on this card, and I'll stop gushing about the art. The effect is what I'm here for, and
It's a good
yeah,
effect.
I'm
And it's a fairy
excited.
rogue. Like it kind of ticks every box.
Oh yeah, it's got my attention.
and
that's for sure.
And because it says a graveyard, and then you basically exile it after you cast it, it's like not a stretch to say it's also kind of graveyard hate in a way. Like if
Sure.
you don't want
Yeah,
to
I mean,
get that
if you can-
flashback spell back or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to try and flashback or they're going to try and return something to their hand or whatever, instant speed, flicker.
Yeah.
Flicker
Right.
your creature, cast their spell, exile it. Like, that's a heck of a graveyard. I mean, it costs you some mana, but that's heck of
Yeah.
that is some graveyard removal right there. Oh, that's what you were going to go after? What if I cast it instead?
What if it's
It
mine
might cost
now?
me 5 or 6 mana, but what if I did it instead? How would that make
Yeah.
you feel?
What I like about that is that like it's very difficult for people to Uno reverse you on that. Like if you cast the Halo Forager, you don't have to announce the target as Halo
Yeah,
Forager enters the battlefield. Like it's going to ETB, and then the thing that triggers when it ETBs is you may pay X.
Yep.
yeah.
And then if you pay
And
3, no, no, wait. Okay, so there's a second trigger in there. So when you pay 3, then you target the card, and people can
Yeah.
respond to that second trigger. Okay, it's 2 triggers.
correct.
I thought it was just when you do, you can cast an instant or sorcery, and like you didn't have to name the target until it was too late to stop it. But I was wrong.
Yeah, no. It does require a target, which kind of sucks because, like, if I pay like X is 5, and the thing I target gets removed, I'd like to be able to target the other 5-mana instant or sorcery.
Yeah. Yeah.
But more than likely, probably targeting X is 2, X is 3. This deck will probably get built. I don't know about competitively, but it'll be tuned. Infinite mana combos with this. This is its own
Sure.
Chaomancer, kind of, sort of. I mean, it exiles the spell, but you can go Lodge if you have enough of these effects in your graveyard.
Shit, we just
get a
got Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, get a couple of ETB effects, get a couple of that jazz. I mean, shoot, even just double casting High Tide in a turn seems pretty good.
Yeah.
So I
Like nice Siphon Mind. Let me cast it now.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly. I am excited to see what people do with this and where I personally go with it.
I do think, though, kind of like what you touched on, this card definitely blew Twitter up for a little while within the PDH community, but I think the X part of the effect kind of blindly went past people because they were so enamored with the rest of the card and everything else it does. Like that X is really going to rack up after a while. Like eventually there just may not be targets that are less than 6 or 7, 8 mana or whatever, just expensive targets. So
I imagine you're probably always targeting a 2 or 3 mana spell with this. I
Yeah.
don't really. There's not a lot of instants and sorceries in the format that go past 4 or 5 mana.
Right.
I'm just thinking about
Unless
what
they're
I
just like
person-
pet
yeah.
cards or something.
Yeah, I'm thinking about what like I personally run. Like the 6+ mana slot is usually reserved for creatures.
And by paying X, you don't get your opponent's treasure cruise for 1 mana. Like it's going to cost you 8.
Yeah.
But good card either way.
You don't get to flashback the gush for 0 mana and 2 islands. You can just 5.
Dang.
It's still 5. Yep.
Yeah.
Dang.
All right, Halo Forager seems good. All right, what do I got next here? Ooh, I'm switching over to mono green for I guess technically Simic for this commander. It is Not Vold Hermit for 3 generic and a green. It's a 4/4 troll, which is pretty awesome right there. No real abilities other than you can transform it for 5 generic and a blue Phyrexian. You can transform it into Chrome Host Hulk. It is a Phyrexian troll. It's a 5/5, and whenever Chrome Host Hulk attacks, up to one other target creature has base power and toughness 5/5 until end of turn. That's it. There's nothing fancy about it, but it is a mono green splashing blue commander that wants to be kind of just this big stompy deck, and I'm cool with it. I'm cool with beating face with big green creatures, and that's it. That's all I got. There's nothing fancy about it, unless I'm missing something here. What do you think, Dave?
I think it's really fun. I think this set in particular has enough +1/+1 counter things to just make it thick. Like when
it's in blue, so if you had to make it unblockable, we definitely have instant speed, unblockable spells.
Yeah.
So.
I'm just imagining like, you incubate for like 4 or whatever, and you have a 4/4 that is actually a 0/0 with 4 counters.
Mm-hmm.
And then you swing with this guy, and now you're 4/4 is a 9/9.
Now it's a 9/9.
I want to do that, and like your ability. This so. I'm gonna call back to something that was said a while ago when Derek was on Shivam's YouTube thing. They were talking about the idea of one of the big appeals of PDH is, when you draft a really good deck that utilizes a really powerful, like uncommon signpost, you can just transform that into a PDH deck. Like that's where my mind is going with this card. Like I want to, in drafts and limited, I want to use this guy to turn my 0/0 creatures with a bunch of counters on them into 5/5s with counters on them, and just swing
Right.
for massive, crazy damage. And like that's what I want to do in limited for March of the Machines with this guy. And then I want to just do that in a PDH game as well. Like find how many cards are out there in all of Magic's history that are 0/0s with counters and not like Cytospawn Shambler is a 7 mana
Yeah.
0/0 that comes in with 6 counters and it has
Right.
graft and it can give things that have counters on them trample. Like I want Cytospawn
Yep.
Shambler to just casually be an 11/11.
And this is the color of green pump and blue evasion. So
Yeah.
you're
And
going to be beating a lot of face.
and you have proliferate in both of those colors. Yeah, I think
Oh, it's beautiful.
yeah, I think this guy is like a counters deck is going to be really fun.
Yeah, that should be. I can see that Simic counters. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
All right, what do you got, Dave?
I am going to break the rules.
Wait a second. Those aren't creatures.
They're not creatures at all.
Gotcha.
So
I didn't know this was allowed.
so here's the thing.
When you're on the RC, you do what you want.
The rules committee is unenforceable. No one's going to Kool-Aid Man into your wall if you break the rules, which means I'm going to break the rules. We need to talk about battles.
Let's do it.
Battles is a completely new card type in March of the Machines. Battles are they're almost vaguely sort of enchantment like in that
Mhm.
they're a permanent type. They come into play. They almost the battles that we have right now have some sort of enters the battlefield effect. So they're like a cross between sorceries in that you cast them and something happens, and then they stick around. And instead of providing a continuous effect like most enchantments do, the battles that we have are attackable. They have a little icon in the bottom corner that is like their life or their loyalty or their I don't know what the actual word is, defense.
Defense counters.
Defense counters. They come in with a number of defense counters. And then when you cast it, you essentially give it to an opponent to defend, and then you can either attack that opponent or you can attack the battle. Any
Kinda
damage
like a planeswalker.
I would like to clarify that.
Ooh, yeah.
So it comes in and you choose an opponent to protect it.
Mhm.
Protecting it is a flag. You actually still control it.
Yeah, you control the battle.
Yeah.
But someone else is defending it.
Yeah, so you and opponents not protecting it can attack the battle.
Yes.
The opponent that protects it cannot attack it, but they can use their creatures to defend it.
Yes. So
Anyone, including the protector, can target it with spells.
Yeah. So you cast it, you give it to an opponent to defend, to protect, and then you can attack it. It's sort of like a planeswalker, in that when you're declaring your attacks, you can send your creatures at the opponent or at the battle. Any damage you deal to the battle with attacking creatures or with spells will reduce its defense counters. And then when its defense counters go to 0, you get to cast the back side of the battle. All the battles are double-faced cards.
Yeah, it flips like a saga.
It flips like a saga?
Like some of those sagas we had.
Oh,
that
like the
turned into
Kamigawa
creatures.
sagas.
Yeah.
It
So
looks like a TDFC.
I was
Thank
thinking of the other sagas, like the original sagas. Like a bunch of those don't flip. What's going on? They just
You haven't been
sacrifice
playing them
themselves.
right, dude.
Oh, yeah, so it flips into a different card. Some of them flip into artifacts or sorceries or whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of them flip into creatures, which is why I feel less bad about breaking the rules like a cheating cheater and trying to build a PDH deck with a battle as a commander. We don't have any battles at common, so you can't put them into the 99. But there are a couple that I think would make really interesting commanders. I'm going to start with a.
And see, I don't even think it's that bad of a rule 0 because it's not giving you an advantage. You still have to take your resources and attack this battle.
Yeah,
Exactly.
As opposed to attacking
it's
your
extra
opponent.
steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this will be my 5th, 6th illegal deck that uses an illegal commander that's not a creature. Like I'm not worried about it. I think that it is extremely balanced. Like I'm not building these because I think they're going to break anything. I'm just building them because they're
fun.
I think they're cute.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one I'm going to talk about two battles as commanders in today's episode. The first one I want to talk about is very like this word gets used as a derogatory a lot, but I mean this as high praise. It's very basic. It's very Simple. It's the kind of thing that you want to put into a command zone and then utilize. The first one I'm going to talk about is called Invasion of Dominaria. This
Yep.
is a for 2 colorless and 1 white. You get this mono white battle. Its enter the battlefield ability is that you gain 4 life and draw a card. So we have card draw in mono white, which, honestly, you can ask any pal, they'll tell you white has too much card draw.
Busted.
It's so busted. And then the battle sticks around it. It has 5 defense counters. So you're going to give it to an opponent, and then you're going to attack it and try to get through. And once you've dealt 5 damage to this battle, it doesn't just transform. It's like you get to cast it. So you get to cast for free a 4/4 Vigilant Flyer.
Yep.
Which is a callback to Sarah Angel from Alpha. Sarah Angel has been one of my favorite cards. This is something that I have in common with Brownie. Sarah Angel is one of my favorite cards. It's extremely nostalgic for me. I have a lot of very fond memories of
100%.
Sarah Angeling and Shivan Dragoning in the mid 90s.
Yep.
And like honestly, like this as a commander, this doesn't give you a lot of direction. Like you cast it and draw a card, that's good, and then it's a 4/4 flying vigilant. Like it's not telling you what other cards you should be playing in the deck. It's not like giving you some bonus for counters or giving you some bonus for doing something else. It's just very streamlined, very basic.
Right.
I like it because of the nostalgia. I like it because it's a very simple battle that seems like a cool card type to play with, and I like it because the flavor text is a callback to that nostalgia that I feel about Sarah
It
Angel.
really is. That was a good job.
Yeah. She says, I was there when Phyrexia doomed Sarah's realm with a single touch. I was there when Yawgmoth tried and failed to conquer Dominaria, and I will still be here when Elish Norn lies dead. Ah, so good.
The flavor text in this set is off the chain. So good.
They did a terrific job with it.
And for anyone interested, we do have 20 uncommon battles at various monocolors, colors, pairs, etc., etc. So there's plenty to brew here with if you want to get in a Rule Zero deck.
Write letters to your local rules committee members.
Yep.
Insist that they change the rules for you personally. Don't write letters
For
to me.
you.
I already know. Write
He's
letters
on
to
your
the
side already.
rest of the RC.
Awesome. Well, that does sound like fun. Nice little throwback, mono white. Good times, good times.
What do you think about battles as commanders?
I love the idea. While you were sort of talking about your Sarah Angel, I was scrolling through the options we have at Uncommon. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to build probably 2 of them. Obviously an Orzhov one, and then some other one. I don't know yet.
Nice. How does Liam
Yeah.
feel about it? I haven't.
I like a lot of them. In terms of Rule Zero, I'm just gonna stick with my usual stance of I don't mind other people doing Rule Zero things. I tend to not, just because it's just my personal play style. I tend to not do a lot of Rule 0. But I have absolutely no problem with people walking up, be like, "Hey, do you mind if I play this battle as my commander? Hey, do you mind if I play this planeswalker?" Like, I'm going to be cautious every time, and I'm be like, "Why do you want to do that?" And if your answer is Dave's answer of like, I don't know, I just thought it'd be cool to play, this Sarah Faithkeeper as a Sarah Angel but extra work. It's like, okay, sure. But if you're like, oh yeah, there's a super sick 2-card combo that only works with this battle, like I'm not so sure about that, right? So depending on intentions, I tend to be very open to the idea. It's a very long-winded way of saying I will not build any of these, but I look forward to seeing what my co-hosts come up with.
And come on, man, the only Orzhov battle we have at Uncommon flips into an equipment called the Holy Frazzle Cannon. How can I not build that?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Where you at on your list, Liam? What do you got?
My next one is Norn's Inquisitor. This is 1 and a white for a 1/1 Phyrexian Knight. When it comes to this artwork, I actually don't mind this artwork a ton.
This one's pretty good. It turns out
it's almost just like a suit of armor.
Still a little gross, but it's mostly okay.
When you take the gross fleshlessness of Norn's whole aesthetic and cover that with Innistrad Inquisitor gear, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
when it enters the battlefield, you incubate 2. So you create your incubator token, you put 2 counters on it. And whenever a permanent you control transforms into a Phyrexian, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So basically, when you transform your incubator tokens, they get an additional +1/+1 counter. This, once again, with a Flicker deck, I don't have any active Flicker decks, like true Flicker. Ethos One Sphinx, if you listened last week, is technically my Flicker deck. But that's a bounce and recast, right? I don't have any true, honest-to-goodness Flicker decks. And it looks like I'm going to be building at least 2 from this set, because this fascinates me. My biggest problem, like I wanted to love Amass. My biggest problem with Amass was that it always built on the same token.
Yes.
And there were plus sides to that, but to me personally, that was a big downside. I wanted every time I amassed to make a new token. Incubate fixes that problem. I don't mind paying a little bit of extra mana to transform it, right? Because it means that my creatures get to dodge board wipes until I want them.
Sure. Yep.
And it can lead to very swingy turns. And I'm kind of digging the art a little bit, which is very strange, because
That is strange for you.
I don't like Phyrexian artwork, and I'm not the biggest fan of Innistrad. So it's very, very strange. Like when I brought this to my playgroup, they looked at me and they're like, "You're going to build the Innistrad Phyrexian? Are you feeling okay?" And I was like, no, I get it. Like it, but the effect is just too good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to building this.
Awesome. Yeah, seems good. I actually, my last commander on my list is also mono white that cares about incubator tokens, and that is Tiller of Flesh. It's a little grosser, a little more gross than the last artwork, but I still love it. It is 3 generic and a white for a 2/4, so not super easy to remove. Also a Phyrexian Knight, and it says whenever you cast a spell that targets 1 or more permanents, incubate 2. That's it. I love white decks that, if I build this deck, it'll be the spells that I cast will be targeting my own permanents, because I love auras and white combat tricks and flicker and that sort of thing. So,
God, I didn't even think about auras.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, and obviously
God.
white is excellent for removal too. So I'll cast some of that. But
if you pacify your opponent's creature, you get to oh, what the hell?
Yeah, you get a 2/2. Well, you get a 2/2 for 2 mana. Yeah.
Liam, do you know about an aura called Conviction?
Yes, I was going there next with Conviction and all the ones that return themselves to your hand. Oh gosh.
Do you know about an instant called Change of Heart or Anoint?
Yeah. Oh my lord.
There's also like I guess that doesn't.
Never mind. Cessation is
Cessation's a good one.
You have to wait for it to die before you get that one back. Brilliant Halo, I think, is the other one from that cycle.
Oh, Brilliant Halo's so good. I love that card.
Yeah, you can do work with this.
Yeah, I think so.
I was excited about
now,
this
granted,
ability.
You do have to pay 2 to transform every one of them, which is fair, but that may add up. It may become a hindrance. But still, it could be very powerful.
This is a good deck for Sisse's Ring and Everflowing Chalice, because
Power Stones
proliferate.
Yeah, proliferate. Mm-hmm.
You can proliferate the tokens on the eggs.
I'm looking forward to the release notes, because I am very curious to see how Summoning Sickness interacts with incubator tokens. Because my curiosity, because they transform, they don't leave the battlefield.
Right.
Because the tokens, if they left the battlefield, they would both simultaneously lose their counters and cease to exist.
Right.
So they can't leave the battlefield to transform. But they're not creatures on the front side. So I'm curious, if you flip it, does it have Summoning Sickness?
No.
Sorry. Let's say you incubate and then 3 turns later you flip it. Does it have Summoning Sickness or does it not?
No Summoning Sickness.
I don't think it does, but I want to wait for the release notes because they've never done this kind of thing with a token.
So would it have Summoning Sickness the turn you create? If you created it and flipped it in the same turn, it would have Summoning Sickness?
Yes, absolutely. We know that first. That's so.
Okay.
I'm 100% confident that it has Summoning Sickness the turn it comes into play, and then if you flip it on a later turn, it doesn't get Summoning Sickness again.
Well, only creatures can have Summoning Sickness. But Summoning Sickness, I believe, tracks the permanent as a whole. That's why Mutate works the way it does, and that's why other transforming cards work the way they do.
Yeah.
So
If you somehow
I'm
manage to give your artifacts a tap ability, then yeah, the untransformed egg would be able to tap on the turn that you
correct.
make it. Yeah, yeah. Okay, that
Mm.
checks out.
So I'm curious to see how Summoning Sickness interacts with this, how they write it, because if it works out that it works out the way you want it to, where they don't have Summoning Sickness the turn you flip them, what you do with this deck is you just build up 8, 9, 10 incubate tokens. Hold up all your mana one turn, for interaction, whatever you need. Get to your opponent's end step or whatever, or shoot, even on your turn, flip them all and swing. Like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
these incubate commanders seem
That's the plan.
deceptively strong, depending on how
They
some of
really
this
do,
interacts
and
with the incubator token.
and it's got a 4 butt. That's not super easy to get rid of,
I'm
damage wise.
I'm extremely confident that Summoning Sickness works like we want it to. I mean,
I am as well, but I'm not willing to make a call on air without
I'll
the release notes.
I'll make the call. I'm not a judge. I got
RC's
nothing
got
to
it.
use. The
Well,
thing
sweet.
that irritates me the most about Norn's Inquisitor and Tiller of Flesh is that in
Yes.
mono white we have exactly 3 proliferate cards, or maybe
I know.
it's 4.
That
Like
is true.
I want there to be like 10. Like
Yeah.
we
Hell
just
yeah.
had a proliferate set and it gave us so much proliferate in blue and green, and we got
Yep. A
nothing
little bit
in
of
white.
black.
We
Yeah.
have like
and
we have
nothing.
Wanderer's Strike and some kind of Martyr, and then like Unbound Potential.
Unbound Potential is one I was thinking.
I wish there was more in white. In white
Yep.
specifically.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, that's my last commander. Dave, you want to tell us about your last one, the next battle on your list?
I have a second battle on the list, and this one is dumb as heck. I want to tell you today about Invasion of Muraganda. The sorcery half of this, the half that happens when you cast it, is a 5 mana fight spell. This is mono green, four and a green. When it enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then that creature fights creature you don't control. So it's mono green removal. That's fine. We like it's
Sounds good.
it's an out muscle or a struggle for Skemfar. Or there's a million of these +1/+1 counter and then fight spells. Usually it costs 4
Yep.
mana. So this extra mana gets you a battle with 6 defense points. And after you deal 6 damage to this 5 mana battle, it transforms into Primordial Plasm, which is a 4/4 with only one ability. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature gets +2/+2 and loses all abilities until end of turn.
That is so subtly cool.
It's so weird. Like the reason that I was drawn to this is because I don't think there's anything else. There's very few other cards that let you play around with something losing its abilities temporarily, and that like all the other cards that do that take away other things as well. Like it loses all abilities and it can't attack or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
and it's a 0/4 or
and
whatever.
it's 0/4. Like they're all like very like explicitly control cards. This is
Yep.
something that lets you take away some abilities for a little while and still make it big and still let it attack. So I was
Yeah.
thinking, what could I get up to? What weird, goofy shenanigans could I get up to by pairing this with all of the old, 30-year-old, absolutely awful garbage tier cards that tried to be aggressively costed for their stat line, and that was balanced by some drawback. So stuff like Carnivorous Plant is a 4 mana 4/5 wall.
Yep.
This thing will take away Defender, and now you can attack with your
Oh my
6/7.
god, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, like there's some sort
Because
of
Defender is an ability.
Carsey Archers is a 5/2 with Defender and Reach. Like you can just attack with your 7/4 wall. Things like Jackalope Herd is a 4 mana 4/5 that has whenever you cast a spell, you have to return the Jackalope Herd to your hand. So if you only cast
Not
spells
anymore.
during combat or in your second main phase, like you can keep around your stupid Jackalope Herd. So like
Oh,
this is my idea for the deck. Just I found every green common with a terrible drawback. except the ones that like there's a bunch that have upkeep costs, and I looked at those and was sad because this
Yeah,
primordial plasm ability only triggers on combat.
on combat.
You
Yeah,
can't dodge the upkeep costs. But like there's so many that just have stupid idiot drawbacks, and you can like sort if you spend 5 mana and then deal 6 damage to a battle, you can once per turn dodge the drawback on one of your terrible
on one of your
creatures.
creatures, right?
Like that's the kind of magic that I want to be playing.
Excellent. I definitely look forward to seeing that deck.
We'll talk about it in a future 3x3 of just like, what if you made a deck out of exclusively terrible cards? Like,
Yep. Book it. I like that topic. Liam, you're down to your last commander as well. What do you got?
I am bringing Botanical Brawler. This is a green-white 0/0 elemental warrior with trample. When it enters the battlefield, it gets 2+1/+1 counters. So you get a 2-mana 2/2, right?
Okay.
It'll work out. And it says whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on another permanent you control, if it's the first time that 1/1 counters have been put on that permanent this turn, put a 1/1 counter on Botanical Brawler. So this is very similar to other effects that exist already, and again at rare. I believe this is similar and in line with Juniper Order Ranger. Someone correct me if I'm wrong.
similar, yeah. Juniper Order
But
Ranger,
it's in the same wheelhouse,
same wheelhouse for
right?
sure.
Where counters are put on something else and Order Ranger.
Mhm.
So whenever you're putting counters on something that's not Botanical Brawler is like, hey, give me some of that, right?
Mhm.
This looks fun as heck as a Selesnya alternative to the Kami of Whispering Hopes. So the Kami is going to very likely be built as a +1/+1 counter Voltron strategy with big mana spells and creatures to cast. Whereas this one is going to be more about spreading the counters amongst the team.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to building both because I love dice bag decks where the goal is to just dump as much dice on the table as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And both of these commanders are going to enable that in similar but also very different ways. And I am looking forward to that.
Yeah, that sounds good. I like that it's Selesnya. Most of the Selesnya decks I see or I play against are usually some sort of token deck. So it's kind of cool to see a non-token Selesnya commander. And I know there's plenty of them that exist, but this one actually feels like more like stuff that people will build.
I mean, I have a Selesnya deck in the works. It's Queen All in All from Dominaria United. And that is definitely a token deck.
Right.
But I am excited to also build this one that is going to be more of a counters deck, even though it will likely play a couple of token cards. It will not be nearly as much as Queen All in All does.
Sure, that's fair.
Speaking of tokens, this guy really wants you to incubate.
Yes.
Yeah.
The thing I really like about this card is that it is 2 mana. So
it is 2 mana. Yeah, you mentioned the Order Ranger, and that one's 4 or 5.
Order Ranger's 5.
Granted, it doesn't have the for the first time, clause, but
Order Ranger has a couple combos you can do with it, which why it costs 5. I like that this is 2. I like that. So like I love the idea of Juniper Order Ranger, and like also Good Fortune Unicorn is similar. I like 2 mana is just like I feel like it's exactly where you want to be with this deck because it's cheap enough that you can just get it online immediately, and it'll turn into a threat, 4/4 or 5/5 by turn 4.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to mutating Vulpikeet on top of a creature.
Yes.
So
on top of this
creature...
0/0 creature.
Well, no, not on top of this one. On top of a different creature. That way, the other creature has counters and flies, and this one has counters and tramples. And your opponent's just like, why?
Yeah.
Two evasive.
What is happening here?
Two evasive attackers, right?
I mean,
because if I mutated on the Botanical Brawler, it would get the counter, but it wouldn't get like the bonus counter. Does that make sense?
Getting the bonus counter on this is good, but also like changing its stat line to not 0/0 while still keeping its counters is also very good. So like, I mean, I guess if you're mutating the Vulpikeet onto an incubated token, so that it also gets the benefit of going from a 0/0 to a 2/3, like that I'm on board with. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like this guy's biggest, you know, this guy's Achilles heel is going to be that he's going to get bounced or murdered, and you can just be like, that's fine. I recast him again for
Yep.
4, and
Yeah, because
I
you're in
resume
green.
the
It's not gonna be hard.
yeah, and like bouncing him is going to reset his power and toughness, and you're going to have to start over with him. But like the thing that you're doing with him is putting counters on everything else. And so you're still going to have a huge board stat. Like him getting bounced is not going to be the crazy setback that it is
Yeah, it's
when
not a
like
Voltron strategy
right.
necessarily. Yep.
I have a very similar deck in the Guardian Paladin, the 4 mana 4/4 that gives itself lifelink and trample when something gets a counter.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that deck does also silly things where like there's just an absurd number of white and green creatures that give themselves a counter like once per turn.
Yeah.
And so yeah, just getting like 1 or 2 of those online to just stack counters up on both of these things is massive.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely a lot of synergies with +1/+1 counters and Selesnya. There's a lot of different things you can do, different auras, different sorceries, instants. Like literally at every card type, there is something you can do with
Yeah.
+1/+1 counters in those colors.
Yeah,
And then there's a card I run
I like the
in
guys with
Herd Baloth,
training.
Predatory Hunger. I
Predatory
think
Hunger's
that's gonna
strong.
that would be good in this deck. It's whenever an opponent successfully casts a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on enchanted creature.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. But yeah, just silly fun stuff like that. But I think that yeah, that wraps up our commanders. I think it's a good sign. It's a sign of a good set when our commanders are there's some multicolored commanders, there's some monocolored commanders, there's some option for rule 0 commanders, like there's some set mechanics, signpost uncommons in here. We kind of touched a little bit of everything, and that wasn't even intentional. These were just the ones that stuck out. So I think that's a good sign for the rest of the set, or for the success of the set as a whole. Yeah, let's move down here to the commons and just kind of cruise through these real quick. I'll start off here with white. We are doing these in Wooburg order as usual. So my first white common in the 99 is going to be Alabaster Host Intercessor.
What a name.
Yeah, I know, right? I had to make sure I went slow on that one. For 5 generic and a white, it's a 3/4 Phyrexian Samurai. Very cool type line. When Alabaster Host Intercessor enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls until AHI leaves the battlefield. And so that's cool. We have that effect on many other things in mono white. But this has another line of rules text, which it planes cycles. It cycles for basic planes for 2 mana. They did bring back basic land cycling, which I think, I know Liam's a big fan of it. He's got that in his list as well. It's so cool. It's a very cool mechanic. There's, it's easy ways to get your creatures in the graveyard. It can help you if you're getting mana screwed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, but one reason I like this as an actual creature is it's kind of thick at 3/4. It is expensive. It's 6 mana, but because it's hard to remove with damage, because it's a 3/4, it doesn't die to bolt or what have you.
Literally
This is a pretty.
unkillable.
It's almost invincible. It's almost indestructible. It's a very solid removal spell. Even if you just need to bounce a commander back to the command zone, it's a very good, solid removal spell. I wouldn't slot this in your deck if you need a removal spell. Like, oh, this has removal, I'll put this in here. But at this point in the curve, I think that's a pretty good option, especially for slower decks, late game decks, that sort of thing. So I'm a fan. And it's got plane cycling, so go get yourself a planes.
The plane cycling for me is what makes this card amazing. Like
Yeah.
we've had O-rings on creatures before. Like
I don't know
Fiend.
that this would be in my list if it wasn't for the plane cycling edition.
Right. Like if you want to compare this to Fiend Hunter, which is sort of the same effect. It's a creature that comes into play, exiles the thing, and then the thing comes back when the Fiend Hunter leaves. Fiend Hunter has this effect as a 3 mana 1/3, and like
Right.
the Alabaster Host Intercessor is 3 more mana. It's double the mana cost for +2/+1, which is, I mean, at a glance, that feels like a really raw deal. It feels like it's much worse. But there's 2 things going on for it here that make it, I think, really powerful, and that is Fiend Hunter's uncommon. It's not legal in our format at all. So like you're gonna pay a little more for this effect when you bring it down to common. And
Sure.
secondly, um, the flexibility of plane cycling I think is impossible to undervalue. Like whenever you have a 6 mana card like this, having it in your opening hand feels really bad. You're like, well, I'm not gonna. This card's just gonna sit here and do nothing for 5 turns while I slowly ramp up
Right.
to it. Or like,
Right.
sometimes you'll be in situations where like you need to draw, or I guess you don't. Yeah, you just need the planes. You don't have the 6 mana. Like having the flexibility to turn this into a different effect instead of the 6 mana 3/4 removal spell is
Yeah.
massive.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the point I wanted to make about this Alabaster Host and the other 6 cards that'll like it. I was going to say every color but green, but my skimming of the image gallery earlier has been proven wrong by Scryfall being amazing. Every color has gotten at least one card that has their basic type cycling on it. And then green got an additional one that just has regular cycling. And I am a huge fan of cycling. I was talking that I don't know about this Alabaster Host Intercessor making it into E-Sphinx, just because the rate on the body is a little low, even though it is a removal spell.
Yeah. Sure.
But it is going to make it into my Fox deck, where my goal is to cycle as many cards as possible.
The cycling guy.
The
That's great.
flourishing fox.
Yeah.
And this is going to go great there, because that deck. One of the things that deck lacks is actual playable things. Because I don't know how much you know about cycling's history, but when you dig for that deck, some of the cards get a little rough. So having a removal spell option or an early cycling option for the Fox is really nice. So that will be making it into that deck. But just in general, cycling as an effect, I love. Whether it's straight up cycling, or it's basic land cycling, or it's basic land type cycling, whatever it is. Might even be wizard cycling.
Yeah.
Cycling is great.
Yep.
Quick side note: how irritated are you about the Neon Dynasty Samurai that has plain cycle without the keyword?
Very.
Good. Okay.
Good.
I thought
do you want,
I thought I was
do
the
you
only
want
one who was
also-
like just profoundly annoyed by that. Like I get that it has to be channel, but like
Do you know what also irritates me?
Hmm.
Mnemonic Sphere having channel over cycling.
right? Channel, discard this, draw a card. You're like, I'm sure there's a word
Cycling
for that
has-
somewhere.
Cycling
Weird,
is
yeah.
so like I know channel is in the set, but cycling has so many more synergies that just exist in Magic. I would rather them just put cycling on it.
Yeah.
There's nothing that cares about when you channel.
No, there is no.
Okay.
Actually, I think there are things, but they suck.
So it looks like we all have varying amounts of each color. Are
Yeah,
we
just
each going to run
finish,
through a
finish your
color?
white.
Okay. Let's move on to the next one here. It is Angelic Intervention. For a generic and a white, it's an instant. Target creature or planeswalker you control gains protection from colorless or from the color of your choice until the end of turn. If it's a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on it. This is a really good protection spell. It is 2 mana, and it targets, well, for us, targets a creature, so it's always going to get that +1/+1 counter. You know, sometimes getting a +1/+1 counter is just a 2 mana effect. But this also gives your creature protection from any color of your choice, and I also like that it's specified colorless and not just from artifacts like, say, like Apostle's Blessing did. This is actually specifies colorless, so because there's a lot of artifacts running around PDH, there's Scour from Existence, that sort of thing. So this will definitely help you in a pinch, and I think it's good enough just to slot in most non-token mono white decks, because tokens are expendable. But if you have a commander you particularly care about, or one big win condition creature, etc., I think this is going to go in most mono white decks and a lot of decks that have just white in them. So, and it's even a consideration for the cube, but that's going to take a little bit of testing. So, what do you guys think about the protection spell we just got, Angelic Intervention?
I love it. I think this is an outstanding card. I'm really excited about seeing what it does. Mostly, I'm really excited about this in Bird Horse.
Ooh,
Bird Horse
yeah.
needs desperately to protect its bird and its horse, and
Because
like
people come for those commanders.
people, I mean, they are your only win con. Like you're,
Right.
and they're small, right? Like if someone kills the bird when it's a 4/6, like you have to recast it for a lot of mana, and then you have to like slowly build it back up again. It is a very ponderous deck to have to reset. So people know that that's its vulnerability and they come for it. And the ward, the bird gives ward, and that helps enormously, but
Hmm.
it doesn't stop Aether Spellbomb.
Ah, see? I hadn't even
And
thought
neither
about
do
Spellbomb.
any of
Yep.
my protection spells.
Yep.
And so I just lose. I just
I
lose to
just
Aether Spellbomb
lose.
constantly. Except if I have like Apostle's Blessing
Right.
is the
Yep.
only out for the Aether Spellbomb I have. And it's an all-star in the deck. And like having a second one that this one gives protection and a counter, like the way
Yeah,
that the
and a
Bird Horse
counter.
math works out for commander damage, like it's like one counter away from just taking like that counter takes an entire turn off the clock if you time it right. And so that this card
Right.
is enormous.
And it's straight up protection too. It's not indestructible. It's not
Hmm.
any of those things. So
Hmm.
it's very good. Very, very good. I mean, you could target your Tiller of Flesh and get a incubator out of it too. Look at that.
Yeah, it's
We
true.
broke it. All right, let's I got one more white on my list here, and it is actually an equipment, one that I know Lobert is personally a fan of. It is Core Halberd. For a single white, you get a artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and vigilance, and it equips for 1. That's it. And that
Seem,
is very powerful. It is a lot more powerful than it reads.
seems strong.
Vigilance is, yeah, super strong in PDH. It equips for cheap. It gets +1/+1, and it's a single white to cast it, to get it on the battlefield. It works with all your artifact synergies, equipment synergies. Like, there's no downside to this card. It's not like 1 to cast and 3 to equip or anything crazy like that. Like, it's just basically for 2 mana, you get +1/+1 and vigilance. So I'm a
And I,
fan.
I want to I want to pitch in on this one as well.
Yeah.
Just in general, the equipment in this set for us is insane.
Oh, it's so
Uh,
good.
I'm gonna break the color pie here a little bit, but when we get to the Beamtown Beat Stick, like granting menace and a buff, and then on combat damage making a treasure, instantly replaces itself mana wise.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got another equipment. It's a Battle Fan that has Flash in mono black. It ETBs auto equips to a creature and gives that creature indestructible the turn the fan comes down. Is insane. The auto equip text, we're used to seeing it have an equip cost of 3, 4, 5 mana once it falls off the initial creature. This one re-equips for a single mana, a generic mana.
Yeah.
The equipment in this set is outstanding.
Yeah, it's not
And
like you have to be
as
sold on mono white for this to work. Like, it's a
yeah,
generic to equipment. It's
and
not another
and
white.
and as in love with Voltron as I am, Wizards is not making it any easier. Wizards is not making it easier to play a better strategy.
Sure. No, I'm very intrigued by most of the common equipment in this set, and I cannot say that about a lot of sets. But that wraps up my white. Dave, what do you got for white?
I only have one card to add to this, and it is Kithkin Billy Rider.
That's a
Uh,
great name.
it's such a good name, and the art it's outstanding art as well. It is a
It is. Sure is.
Kithkin riding an extremely cute goat.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a spear in one hand, a sword in the other, and that she is wielding 2 weapons. That's how you know that she has double strike,
Bingo.
and that's her only ability. 3 mana,
Yep.
1/3 mono white, double strike. I I love seeing double strikers with very modest stat lines for cheap because I like axes, and axes like double strike,
Yes, they do.
and that's that's really all I got to say about it. I think in limited, I think this card is going to be outstanding because of all the backup stuff.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Yep. You
backup
could
is
just dump counters and
Yeah.
metrics and backup all over it.
Yeah, backup is a new mechanic that a creature has, and if a creature has backup 1 or backup N, when that creature enters the battlefield, you get to put that many counters on target creature. If you choose, so they can put the counters on themselves, and that's sort of like
Right.
the floor for this card is, pretended that has its backup counters on itself for its power and toughness. That's the
Right.
floor of the card. If you put it on a different creature, the creature that gets the counters also gets the backup creature's other abilities that turn, or the following abilities. So like there's a backup creature that's a 5 mana 2/3 with flying. So when it comes in, if you put its one backup counter on itself, then it's a 5 mana 3/4 flyer, and that's it. If you put its backup counter on another creature, that other creature gets flying until end of turn. And this Billy Rider
Right.
is just going to stack up these backup tokens all day long and just come in. She's swinging for the fences.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Yep, that's it. That's all I got for white.
Cool. Liam, you got any white for us?
I do not have any white for you. You are welcome to begin blue.
All right, let's move on to blue. I actually only have one, and I am absolutely in love with it. It is, I'm actually thinking of putting it in my cube. I just got to find room for it. It is Meeting of the Minds. For 3 generic and a blue, you get an instant that says draw 2 cards. But wait, there's more. You can actually convoke this out, which is insanely powerful. Many times this is going to cost you a single blue to draw 2 at instant speed. If you play it in a deck like Third Path Iconoclast, maybe, this may cost you nothing to draw 2 cards at instant speed and make another token. Like, the possibilities with this card are absolutely endless. I don't see... Again, this is another card that I don't see a lot of downside on unless you're just... you got board wiped or something, and you have to pay 4 for 2 cards, at instant speed, which isn't great, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Outside of that, it's great. It's great in Spellslinger decks. It's great in token decks, Iconoclasts, wherever you want to put it. So I'm a fan. Dave, what do you think? Are you a fan of Convoke and drawing cards?
I am. I think in certain decks, I think this is going to be exactly the powerhouse that you say it is. Third Path
Yep.
Iconoclast, Murmuring Mystic. I think in any
Yeah, Mystic, Murmuring Mystic for sure.
yeah, I think it's going to draw a lot of cards for cheap. I think more generically, I think that blue decks, or maybe I'm just sort of biased here because the decks that I play don't have untapped creatures a lot.
That's
I
fair. That's fair.
I'm really into the combat phase where I get to turn all my creatures sideways. I'm not like Lobert. I don't believe in vigilance. So
Right?
like I don't all my creatures just turn sideways all the time. So like using them as mana rocks feels like that means I can't attack, and that makes me sad. So like
That's
I'm not
true. That's fair.
as high on Meeting of the Minds as you, but I do recognize that it's going to have an impact for sure.
Yeah. What do you think, Liam?
I think Meeting of the Minds is absolutely cracked. I was having a discussion with actually Brad on Twitter either earlier today or yesterday. I don't know that I would be caught dead paying full retail for this, but I think the moment you get one creature to convoke it, so it either costs 2 in a blue or it costs 3 generic, it becomes very worth it in the decks that really want to play it, the decks that are getting some form of trigger off of the 9 creature spell, as well as 2 additional cards in hand.
Yeah.
3 mana for this effect is not to go underrated, and yeah, I think Convoke just knocks it out of the park. In certain decks, it's just a free spell.
You can always convoke with Scaretiller or Stony
Mm-hmm.
Brook, the one that makes Merfolk, etc.,
Oh
etc.
yeah, oh yeah. I this deck is this card is in the decks that really want it. It is super cracked.
Yeah, super
Um,
good.
in every other deck that doesn't super want it, but like, hey, it could be a free spell. It's still pretty good.
It's
Um,
still pretty good.
Dave, do you think this would be good for Sphinx?
I probably wouldn't put it in my Sphinx. My
I
Sphinx specifically doesn't have small creatures. My Sphinx is like 20 rocks, 20
Yeah.
beavers. Like I'm not gonna tap
Well,
beavers to play this. And like at
well, no,
that point I would,
absolutely.
right.
But I'm thinking about like the Ethereum spinner that makes a bunch of 1/1s,
Yeah, I mean if
or the
you
Scaretiller that exists in the deck. Like,
I mean I have a combat step to get Scaretiller tapped. I'm not worried about that. Yeah, with the Ethereum spinner, this card is an absolute house, but without it, it's just sort of inspiration, and don't like inspiration very much.
That's fair. Yeah, I
Sure.
I might take a look at the list, but I could see in another Sphinx build this having a home, but I don't know that it has one in mind. Mine is already very tight as is.
It's completely fair.
Solid. Dave, it looks like you have as many blue cards on your list as you did white cards. What do you got?
I have just one white card, and it's on the list for the exact same reason that I'm excited about Angelic Intervention. This card is called Cyber Cryptomancer. It is we're right back to the backup ability.
Yep.
This is a 2-mana 0/1 with flash, backup 1, and hexproof.
There's a lot going on there.
There's a lot going on. So flash means you can play this at instant speed. So perhaps when someone spends 6 mana to target your bird or horse with a murder, you can play Cyber Cryptomancer. You can flash in the Cryptomancer. When it comes into play, you can give your backup 1. You can put your +1/+1 counter on your bird, and then your bird will gain hexproof, and murder will be countered. And
That
I
feels
think
good.
that feels really good. The bird horse's biggest weakness, I mean, aside from Aether Spellbomb, bird horse's second biggest weakness is that it doesn't really have other creatures or bodies that can block. So to me, this is a counter spell that blocks later. And like that's what I want.
Right?
That's everything I want out of a card in Bird Horse. Yeah, hexproof, and then just throwing it under the bus that is a 6/3 menace gut zombie skeleton.
I love it.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about the obviously I read the card, I understood what it did, but I didn't think about it specifically and like using it to protect your commanders or something like Bird Horse where it is very commander centric.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I think this card is gonna see a lot of play.
And it's a Moonfolk Ninja. I mean, that's cool, right?
Yeah, we like Moonfolk Ninjas. I like I like the idea of attacking with it and someone be like, haha, you're funny, I take 0, and be like, no, it's a ninja.
Bam.
Actually, it's Ninja the Deep Hours. I'll draw a card. And I'll put this counter spell back in my hand. No big deal. You can flicker this
Hours
thing.
the whole time. Yeah.
How did that?
It's just when it enters the battlefield, it's not upon casting it or anything.
I've been staring at this card for half an hour. I didn't even realize until right now that you can flicker it. That is
I didn't really either.
a
To be
whole
fair, I
thing.
have not looked at a whole lot of the backup cards, but yeah, I didn't realize that either.
Yeah.
So it backs up one backups one every time it ETBs.
Backup ones.
Backup ones.
Yeah.
Cool. Even better.
Yeah, that's all I got for blue.
All right, Liam. I think you have E-Sphinx Kraken on your list for blue. What do you got?
Yeah, E-Sphinx is very quickly becoming like my signature deck, and I don't know how I feel about it.
I feel the same way about OG. I totally feel the same way. I'm with you.
Yeah, so my blue card is Tidal Terror. For 4 blue, you get a 5/6. It is an octopus, which does not matter at all. It has Island Cycling for 2 mana, so you can discard it, go get an island card. And when it attacks, you may tap 2 other untapped creatures you control. If you do, Tidal Terror cannot be blocked. I know Dave has said he's not putting this in his Sphinx deck.
That's a lot of damage coming through.
I will be, because I feel like my Sphinx deck is a little more tempo-y than Dave's is, which is weird because Dave's was one of the inspirations for mine. For those who aren't familiar, my Sphinx deck is a conglomeration of a couple pillars, just their version of the deck, and I compiled it into one that I liked.
Yeah.
Mine does tend to have a couple of smaller creatures that I hold up for blocking on the crackback. I would happily tap them to get a guaranteed 5 through.
Yeah, for sure. And it has island cycling.
Yeah, and it has island
I
cycling.
just like that it's an octopus.
It is a big ass octopus.
I
See,
love...
those are actual suckers on the tentacles. Those aren't teeth.
Oh my god. I was so happily not remembering that.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Let me just
All right.
enjoy my octopus boy.
Well, you enjoy the octopus while I move on to black. I've got 2 black cards on my list. The first one up is Ichor Drinker. It's a single black mana for a 1/1 lifelink Phyrexian vampire with absolutely sweet art. And then its ability is you can pay a black and exile Ichor Drinker from your graveyard, incubate 2. So you get a 2/2 kind of on the installment plan there, which is an artifact +1/+1 counter theme. I don't know. This is really cool. To me, for some reason, I think this whole card sort of tells a story. Like, it's a vampire. The art is he's drinking the Phyrexian blood, so he becomes a Phyrexian. It's got lifelink. Just everything. I love everything about it. It's very flavorful. It's really cool. It's a single black mana, so I don't know that I'll play it a whole lot, but I love the card regardless. So it's not super powerful or anything, but it can play into a few different strategies, some gain and drain strategies, some artifact strategies, that sort of thing. And it's just sort of overall sweet card. That's my opinions on it. What do you think, Dave? You like it? Hate it? Nothing? Indifferent?
I love it, actually. I play so much madness and self-discard and self-mill that, like, anytime I see a card that you can use from the graveyard, I get unreasonably excited about it. And
Yeah.
this is absolutely one of those cards. I'm gonna slam dunk this into Furia, just because it's
Ooh,
a
there
cheap
you go.
it's a cheap impactful spell if it ends up in your hand. It is a impactful ability if it ends up in your graveyard, and you just that flexibility I think is enormous.
Yeah, it's very flexible. It's a good way to put it. What do you think, Liam? Do you like the Phyrexian vampire?
I don't know. Whenever I see a 1-power creature, I have to think of Shirai. Even though I don't have the deck anymore, I just have to think of that deck. And it doesn't have a dies or ETB trigger, so how good could it possibly be?
That's true. It does not.
You got me there.
It's got a super die trigger, like when it gets exiled. But
Yeah, but
yeah,
you
that's a
can
good
use
point.
that once. Like,
That's true.
it's
That's
alright.
It's aight. Well, let's see if this next
It's
one's
aight.
also aight. It is Unseal the Necropolis. Great name. For 3 mana, 2 generic, and a black, you get an instant. Each player mills 3 cards, and then you return up to 2 target creatures from your graveyard to your hand. I think this is wildly good. Self-admittedly, I know I am not good at evaluating cards that get creatures back to your hand, but I feel like this one is really good. Dave, I know you have a lot of experience with these types of cards. What do you think about it?
I think this one is good. Yeah, I like it a lot. 3 mana for putting 2 cards in your hand seems like a solid rate.
It does seem like a solid rate, yeah.
I especially like that it mills 3 and then puts the card, because like the other problem with, the problem with Death Denied is that if you spend, 4 mana into it to try to get 2 creatures back, like, you're opening yourself up to getting Nihil Spellbound or
Yeah,
like Relict, and then it just does nothing. So
right.
like if there are cards that you have in mind you want to get back with this, you can try that, and then if you get blown out by the removal, like, you still get to mill and then make a decision after the mill, and no one can relic in between those things happening. So
Right.
I like this card a lot, actually.
Cool. What do you think, Liam? You
Yeah,
fan?
I like that it's kind of a better Corpse Churn. So
Mhm.
Corpse Churn, for those who aren't familiar, is 1 and a black for an instant. You mill 3 cards, and then you return a creature to you. I like that this mills every player 3 cards,
Yes.
and then you return 2 creatures for only a generic more. Yeah, you get the extra creature, but you get to mill 3 from each opponent, which sometimes helps them, sometimes messes them up. And I think that extra mill 9 effectively is, or mill up to 9, depending how many opponents are left. It's pretty valuable.
Yeah, I'm a fan. All right, Dave, you got some black cards for us?
I do have some black cards for you.
Let's do it.
I have a few, actually. 2 of them are functional reprints, so I'm just going to start with those, get those out of the way real quick.
Sure.
Corrupted Conviction
Mm-hmm.
is exactly the same card as Village Rites,
Yeah.
except it has ugly, gross art of Phyrexian Eyes to Johnny, which no one likes.
Right.
But Village Rites, 1 black mana instant, sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards. Crazy. Now we have
Crazy
2
good.
of them.
Yep.
I have vivid memories of 2013, like, deliberately putting Skull Tap into my deck,
Uh-huh.
which is the 2 mana sorcery, sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards, and, like, just because I needed that effect. Now we're so saturated with this effect, and it's so much cheaper and better. I love it.
Yep.
The other functional reprint we have is called Nezumi Informant. This is a burglar rat. It is 1 and a black for a 1/1 ETBs. Each opponent discards a card. We have a handful
Yep.
of these. Now we have more, and every
We have
time we
more
get a
of
new
them.
one, the Marsh Crocodile literally dances with excitement. I
And the art
love.
is sweet too. The Phyrexian symbols show up in the neon reflection. Yeah, that's really
Yeah,
cool.
the art is outstanding on this one. So yeah, we have these two functional reprints which are remarkable. I'm very enthusiastic about them. The only new card that I want to talk about briefly is called Dreg Recycler. It's 1 and a black for a 2/2 for a Phyrexian beast. You can tap it, sacrifice an artifact or creature. Each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life.
Yep.
So I feel like mostly this is worse than Lampad of Death's Vigil, which is a 2-mana 1/3 that lets you pay a mana, sacrifice an artifact to drain
Mhm.
everyone at life. That this guy taps is much worse, I think, but it does let you sacrifice artifacts instead of creatures if you're doing that. And
Did you see the flavor text?
bodies too damaged to survive Phyresis are collected and broken down into useful raw materials. It's pretty cool.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know yet whether or not this guy is going to make an appearance in my sacrifice decks. I'm still deciding whether how disadvantageous the tapping is.
Yeah, that was my big hang up with it too. But I
Yeah,
think it's got chops somewhere.
maybe we'll see.
Oh, that was all for your black, wasn't it?
That's all I got.
All right, Liam, do you got any black cards for us?
Yeah. The next functional reprint I'm going to mention is Mirrodin Avenged. Is a functional reprint of You Were Already Dead from Kamigawa Ninja Dynasty.
Oh yeah.
Which is a card that doesn't see any play, so I'm just going to move on from there. The actual card I really want to talk about is Deadly Derision. 2 black for an instant, destroy target creature or planeswalker, create a treasure token. This is an instant speed Grim Bounty, which was a 1 generic less pirate one from Ixalan
Mm-hmm.
for creating 1 less treasure token. So I like that they're slowly walking back this ability, right? Like we saw that the 5 mana sorcery that rebated for 2 was too expensive, saw no play. So we tried a 4 mana sorcery. It sees a little bit of play, but now we have the 4 mana instant.
Right.
And either this will see play or they'll walk us back to a 3 mana sorcery, right? In which case that's just murder. So
yeah,
I'm liking where this design space is at, where they're trying to figure out. They started with treasures being super duper safe, and then they went into treasures being absolutely not safe. What the hell are you doing? And now they found the sweet spot. But the problem is they have all the versions of treasure that exist. And while there are some that won't see play because they're just bad, having 3 different kill spells that make treasures is not healthy overall. So just in general, I just wanted to make a comment that if you are running Grim Bounty in any deck, you should absolutely be replacing it with Deadly Derision for the instant speed. But
oh yeah, for sure.
That's it.
Cool. I like it. I'm always a fan of. All right, let's move on to red. I've got 2 here. The first one up is the Beamtown. Actually, not even just Beamtown Beat Stick. For a single red, it's an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has menace. 2 excellent stats right there. And then whenever equipped creature deals damage to a combat or to a battle, or deals combat damage to a player or to a battle, you create a treasure token, just like Liam was talking about. And it equips for 2. So I'm a huge fan of this. It may not be the best equipment we've gotten at red in a while, but it is pretty darn good. I mean, that menace alone is very good. We've seen that on Sticky Fingers. +1/+0 is decent. We've seen that on a ton of different equipments. And then you get a treasure token every time it bashes somebody in the face. So I don't see a problem with this. It's red colored, so it's not a generic equipment. You can't just slam it into any deck you want. But if you care about that kind of stuff, or you really just love Menace for some reason, I think you can't go wrong here. Or if you're in some sort of treasure token package, affinity package, that sort of. So I like it. I'm a big fan, and it's a beat stick, like we talked about earlier, or maybe it was on the pre-show. Like Streets of New Capenna just feels fun in this set more than it did like in the actual Streets of New Capenna set. You know, that was obviously a design choice and it kind of had to be that way, but I love the flavor and the feel of New Capenna in March of the Machines. What do you think, Dave? Are you gonna beat people with a stick?
I'm super enthusiastic about beating people with a stick. The first time I read this card, I didn't see the menace, and I thought that this was
Mm-hmm.
just a strictly worse Prying Blade because it was. I thought it was exactly the same as Prying Blade, except it cost a red
Red.
mana instead of a generic mana. And I was
Yeah.
like, man, it's weird that they made Prying Blade worse. Like it wasn't that pushed, I didn't think. But then I was like, I saw the menace and I was like, it blew my mind how much better this is than Prying Blade because I already run Prying Blade in a dozen decks
Yeah.
because I
It's
love
very good.
treasures and I love equipment. I love axes. It's not thematically an axe, but it's pretty good. And like having that, like most of those decks are already red, so just having this strict upgrade to just add menace as well is like nuts.
Yeah, I think so too. Like
I,
this is another one of those cards that doesn't have a ton of downside really.
yeah, I also just love the art.
Mm-hmm.
Has it's the Beamtown Beatstick is just a giant crowbar, but
Yeah.
the art depicts the crowbar resting like haloed in sparkling iridescence, resting on an altar in like some cathedral, and you can see like the war going on like through a hole in the back wall of the cathedral. But like
Yeah.
having a pry bar like on an altar glowing
It's like a
iridescently,
holy symbol
it
almost.
it gives you a really powerful glimpse into the religion of Beamtown, which is beating people with a crowbar. Like
Yeah, that's it. That
that's
is
it.
their religion.
Those are the commandments. This is the tenets of Beamtown, and I love that.
Yeah. Are you gonna crowbar people, Liam?
Yes, the Beantown Beatstick is insane. I don't know what deck it's going to end up in, but it will end up in one of my decks somewhere.
For sure. I'll probably test out in a handful of decks and then just land on one or two where it stays forever. So that's all I got for red. So what do you got, Dave?
Uh, I want to talk about. I have three red cards I want to discuss. One of them, again, is a reprint-ish. I'm going to discuss Ral's Reinforcements. This is a 2 mana, one and a red for a sorcery that creates two 1/1 creature tokens.
Yeah, so
Uh,
good.
this is it's not functionally a reprint of Dragon Fodder or Krenko's Command because that goblin creature type on those guys is pretty important, and this one
Yeah,
creates
that's massive.
elementals. If you don't care about the goblins and you just need 2 mana for two bodies, like having another one of these, this is like the fifth one we have or something. Like
Yeah.
I personally love these effects. I have a lot of red token decks or red aristocrats decks that just want cheap ways to make a lot of bodies. So I'm excited about having more of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other card that we have to discuss, very important, is an axe. We get a new
Feel
axe in
like
this
you
set.
like X's. I don't know where I get that impression from,
Sigh.
but
I love axes, guys. I don't know what to tell you. We have and this axe is it's such a throwback to the original Bone Splitter. Like Bone Splitter was, the first equipment card ever printed, and it was just catastrophically undercosted for what it did. And they've been
yeah.
trying to fix it ever since, and they just keep on giving me more and more axes. This one is not a Bone Splitter, it is a Bane Splitter. This is the
Ooh, the
Mirren
split your
Bane Splitter.
banes.
We're gonna split the Banes right in half. It costs the same total amount of mana as a Bone Splitter, which is 1, except this one costs a red mana, whereas the Bone Splitter is generic. It provides the same bonus as a Bone Splitter, +2
Mm-hmm.
+0, and that is where the similarities end.
Yeah.
This one costs 3 to equip instead of 1, which is kind of a substantial departure, but it does have two bonuses that help make up for that. First of all, it has flash, so you can flash it in as a combat trick. Second of
Sounds
all,
good.
when it enters the battlefield, you get one auto equipped for free. So that first equip is free, which has some advantages and disadvantages. One of the great things about Bone Splitter is you can turn one Bone Splitter and then turn 2 or 3, attach it to whatever you want.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that with a Bane Splitter.
You should not drop it on turn 1.
No, this is not a turn 1 equipment. This is a turn 4 or 5 equipment, which is
Yeah, it's a combat trick, basically.
it's a combat trick equipment that then sticks around if the creature dies. So, I do have a handful of decks that are all Axe Tribal, and this is absolutely going into those decks because it is an Axe, and
I love it.
I just love having
I'm a fan.
Axes.
Yep. And whoever's in that art is tearing somebody up with it.
He's got some grievances that he
Yeah.
needs to air out.
Yeah.
That's
Cool,
the last
cool,
red
cool.
card that I want to mention.
Sounds good. Liam, you got some redness for us.
Yeah, my only red card is once again a functional reprint. This is Ren's Resolve, 1 in red for a sorcery. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. For those who are apt at remembering what auto cards do, that is Reckless Impulse.
Yep.
To put this in perspective, Reckless Impulse is currently $1 common. So Ren's Resolve is going to have some immediate impact. Now, there's other MTG Finance stuff playing in that. Like, for instance, Crimson Vow as a set sucked and nobody opened it. So there's no supply of Reckless Impulse.
Right.
March of the Machines is looking amazing, and everyone's going to open it. So I imagine Ren's Resolve will probably be less than $1, but I do not expect it to be in the 2 to 5 cents category. I expect it to be close to 50-75 cents.
Yeah, it's gonna play. This one's gonna see a lot of play, kind of everywhere.
Yeah, wherever you play Reckless Impulse, you should also be playing Ren's Resolve, because Reckless Impulse is, in my opinion, the best draw spell in the format in red.
Yeah, and these functional reprints, these aren't replacements. Like, if your deck can handle it, there's no reason you shouldn't have Reckless Impulse and Resolve in there at the same time.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm a fan.
I'm curious to see how all these functional reprints are going to shake up Pauper, like 60-card Pauper.
Yeah,
Because Reckless Impulse is a card that sees play.
It sees a
as a
lot of
4
play.
of.
Now they have 8 of them, or what I mean,
Yeah.
2 copies of it. So
And
yeah,
I
it
don't
should
think
be very interesting.
I don't think You Were Already Dead sees a lot of play, but I know Village Rites sees a decent amount.
Yep, Village Rites
So I'm curious to see how that plays into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be pretty interesting here to watch the meta a couple weeks after the set comes out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to green. My first green here is, it only costs a single green mana. It is Seed of Hope. It's an instant. You mill 2 cards, and then you may put a permanent card from among the milled cards into your hand. You gain 2 life. It's not great, but I think it's a nifty effect. Yeah, there's not really much to say. It's going to go in a handful of decks if you're looking for lands, or if you're in some sort of graveyard deck, Tortured Existence deck, that sort of thing. I like that it's instant speed. The life gain is sort of incidental. It's only 2 life. It's not a huge deal, but, certain decks will want it. You're only milling 2, so there's a chance that you won't even hit a permanent that you can put into your hand. So this may just be an instant speed green gain 2 life, and that feels bad, and maybe if you do that a few times, you're like, okay, I'm going to cut this card from my deck. So it may not be great, but I find it interesting. I like green cards that green spells, green non-creature spells that mess with the graveyard. So I'm going to test it out a little bit. The next one here that I have is Cosmic Hunger. I love this name so much. It is a 1 in a green for an instant. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to another target creature, planeswalker, or battle. I don't play a ton of... these are bites, right? These are bite spells. I don't play a ton of these. I'm specifically looking for this for Herd Baloth, because I cannot find enough cheap... Well, Herd Baloth and Spiritmonger, because I cannot find enough cheap bite spells, because I'm always kind of worried that, I'm trying to grow my creature or put a counter on it or whatever. Well, what if it dies in combat? That's a lot of mana to recast it. So I love cheap bite spells, and this is definitely going in both of those decks. But outside of that, it'll see play wherever other bite spells see play. Let's see here. One last one I'll get through. It is Converter Beast for 3 generic and a green. It's an 0-1. So 4 mana for an 0-1 does not sound great. It's a Phyrexian Beast creature type, and when Converter Beast enters the battlefield, you incubate 5. That's going to be a huge Phyrexian artifact creature, 5. I love that it's an ETB. Territorial Scythe Cat might have some play with this. I think that deck can put up a lot of mana.
Temur Sabertooth.
God, I did it again, didn't I?
Same thing, yeah.
Same card. Oh, I don't know what my brain is doing. I do that
It's
every single time.
it's the
Like
cat
even
that
in my
starts
head,
with
I
T.
see it. I see the words territorial scythe cat like printed out. I'm reading it. Thank you. Thank you. Teamer, Sabretooth, every single time. Yes. I think Sabretooth could have some fun with this. Really, maybe Simic decks that care about flickering. I don't know. Just the enter the battlefield to get 5+1/+1 counters on an artifact seems really good to me. And I think that's how you want to use it because an 0/1 for 4 mana is going to feel real bad. So you need to be able to abuse that somehow. I think even though you are getting 5+1/+1 counters on a creature that you still have to pay 2 more to transform, I feel like you want to cast this once and then be able to flicker it or get it, basically flicker it to feel like you got a really good value out of it.
Hmm.
But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just being greedy about it. What do you think, Dave?
I think you do either need to flicker it or bounce it or something,
Yeah.
or like in a green black deck, I would want to grave flicker this guy all day long. In a green
Oh,
blue
yeah,
deck, I
that'd
want
be
to flicker
nice.
him. I think you either need to do some combination of that, or like you mentioned the green blue transforming commander earlier that
Mm-hmm.
turns attacking creatures into 5/5 space.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you incubate 5 and then turn that into a 5/5, you have a
Oh
10/10.
God.
Like you need either flicker or like that both. I think that guy's blue, so you can just flicker this guy in that deck. Like
Well, that seems good.
seems fine.
Yep, I like that plan. Cool. Yeah, and it's a Phyrexian beast, so it's a very cool creature type. So that's my green. What do you got, Dave?
I am gonna start with a card called Blighted Burgeoning. This is a land aura. It's kind of, we have a lot of land auras like this, where it's a 3 mana, you enchant a land, and then that land taps for 2 mana,
Yep.
uh, or an additional mana. And these 3 mana land auras always give you something extra. A lot of them are, put a +1/+1 counter on something, or gain some life, whatever. This one lets you incubate 2. And I like this one specifically because Parcel Beast uses a lot of these auras and
Yeah.
suffers from a lack of blockers.
Oh, well,
So
looky
like,
here.
yeah, I this feels like a terrific card for a Parcel Beast deck. We are kind of saturated with these land auras at this point. Like I don't think we needed more land auras. This is just a different land aura. If you want something that gives you a creature instead of gaining life, we got one now, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, it is pretty
Uh,
nice. These Landoors have been showing up in about every standard set lately, so.
yeah, there's a million of them, but I like that. I like the land auras. Next card I want to mention is called Placid Rottentail, which is a 1 mana 1/1 fungus rabbit with vigilance. I mentioned earlier while we were talking about the Ichor Drinker that I really, really like cheap bodies with effects that you can use from the graveyard. And that's what this is. For 3 mana, you can exile this fungus rabbit from your graveyard to put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature. So it's a little bit like Scavenge. I just like that it's an ability you can use from the graveyard for a card that you might mill somewhere. I like having that option there. A 1 mana vigilant creature also feels good in the Convoke flavored set. Not gonna lie.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I want to mention a card called Fertilid's Favor,
Mm
mostly just because the flavor of this card is delightful to me. I've been
hmm.
low-key in love with Fertilid since Lorwyn happened. Fertilid is a 3 mana 0/0 that comes in with 2 counters, and you can remove counters to Rampant Growth.
Yeah.
Fertilid's Favor is a 4 mana instant where you can target player searches the library for a basic land and puts it on the battlefield, and then you put 2+1/+1 counters on something. So I have decks that like to ramp. I have decks that love counters. I have decks that love ramp and counters, and this feels like a slam dunk.
Yeah, it does.
So
Seems good.
so the artwork in Fertilid's favor has helped me realize that the original artwork for Fertilid is an ant.
Yep.
I always thought it was like some kind of like seed elemental.
Hmm.
I
I think
never put together the ant's face.
it's a cross between an ant and a seed, I think.
Yeah. But like I never like processed mentally the ant's face. It was always just a
Uh,
root. It was always just a root system to me.
I see, I see.
Oh,
Yeah,
Now
okay, yeah. That makes
It's,
sense.
now
it's
the
got
artwork makes a lot more sense.
yeah. Cool. part of the reason I wanted to mention Fertilid's Favor and be excited about it is because I love the aesthetics of Lorwyn, and I was kind of sad that when we left that plane, it had been like transmogrified into Shadowmoor,
Yeah.
which has none of the aesthetic like pleasures of Lorwyn. Lorwyn was a
Sure.
bright, sunny, happy place, and then the Great Aurora happened, and the whole plane shifted into like dark, shadowy. No one trusts each other. Everyone is mean. Like no one is kind anymore. And
Yeah.
like that, like it made for a good story. I enjoyed the story, but it made me sad. And now we are getting flavor text and references to Lorwyn and not Shadowmoor, which presumably means that in the story things have shifted back.
Yes.
Like the whole concept of that plane is that it shifts back and forth between the good place and the shadow realm.
Yeah,
And
well,
so
it's been a rumor for a while that we'll be going back there sometime soon, but
this
we'll see.
feels like some sort of confirmation, and I'm into that.
Yep.
There's an Invasion of Lorwyn card here as well, which I like. But I'm not going to talk about that. I just need to mention one other last card really quickly for flavor reasons. The card is called Atraxa's Fall.
Amazing.
Kind of don't care what it does, but the art is a little riveteer guy, a little demon from New Capenna, staring at Atraxa's corpse, which has been pierced through by a steel I-beam.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. This is how you kill Atraxa. You hit her with a building.
Yep. Fallen angels should stay fallen.
Henzi Toolbox Torah.
I'm a fan of Atraxas Fall and Cosmic Hunger as just being kind of upgrades for cards that you might already be playing.
Yeah.
Because they both hit battles. Now, while there are no common battles currently, you're going to run into fools like Dave who are running uncommons in the command zone.
Oh, yeah. You might run into
Because remember, a destroyed battle is not a defeated battle.
It has to be defeated. That's right.
A defeated battle, to flip them, has to be on the battlefield with no counters. That is a defeated battle.
Zero counters.
Battle.
Yep.
A destroyed battle is simply destroyed. It goes to the graveyard. It does not get to flip. Yeah.
Interesting.
So
interesting. Okay.
Teching against people who are running battles as the commander, or just future-proofing your decks for when common battles are printed in 2 to 3 years.
Right.
Yeah, that is excellent input, and that is the end of my green.
All right, Liam, you got a green for us?
Yeah, my only green card happens to also be the only card that was downshifted in the main set. It is Fairgrounds Trumpeter, coming to us from an uncommon in Kaladesh to a common here in March of the Machines. It's got some new art to boot. It is a 2 and a green for a 2/2 elephant, and at the beginning of each end step, if a 1/1 counter is put on a permanent under your control, put a 1/1 counter on Fairgrounds Trumpeter. With the 2 1/1 counter commanders I'm going to be building, this is going to be a slam dunk on both of those. I felt like it wasn't right if I didn't mention it. Also, it's the only downshift to common that we have. So again, would feel wrong if it was not at least mentioned.
Sure.
I'm looking forward to playing with this card at the common rarity. I'm looking forward to always having cards downshifted into playables.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just like you said, it would have felt wrong to not mention it. I also have to give a big shout out to Halo Hopper, 3 mana artifact creature frog. It's a 3/2 with Convoke. That's it. The art is really fun, really cute, very vibrant. And you mentioned 60 card Pauper earlier. This one's actually being talked about for Affinity, which might be kind of nuts, but we'll see how that plays out. I don't know if Convoke's going to work well with such an aggressive strategy, but there you go. You could theoretically have a free 3/2 that's a frog. Shout out to Froggy Boy.
This is basically just like Affinity.
Yeah, kind of. Mm-hmm.
Affinity for creatures.
So, yeah, right. Affinity for tapped creatures. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up. We got some hours under our belt tonight. You guys feeling pretty good overall?
I'm feeling great that I don't have to edit this.
Right? No, it shouldn't be too bad. Be too bad. Outside of like major disasters, I've got it down to somewhat of a science, or at least a streamlined situation.
Good. Yeah, I'm feeling really good about this set. I feel like this conversation is what triggered a lot of thoughts in my brain. Like a lot of the things I said tonight, I didn't think of before I said them. I just realized it, and I was like, oh, this is the thing you could do. And that, like,
Mhm.
now I'm much more excited than I was before. Like,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, that sort of thing happens to me in almost every set review. It's kind of cool actually, because it's when you bounce the ideas off of people and say things out loud that you realize stuff. So
Yeah.
all right, I think we've talked enough for tonight. So let's move into the outro here. Just a few more things before we wrap it up for the week. As always, if you need more Pauper Commander talk or have any questions about the format, you can email the show at thepdhpod@gmail.com. You can head on over to the PDH Homebase's website. That'll take you right to their Discord server. You can find Liam and I on Twitter at Pauper Command and Pauper_B. And as always, you can find Dave as the Alcadron just about everywhere else PDH is being talked about. I will put all the links down there in the show details. And then, all right. As episode 43 of the PDH Pod comes to a close, we want to give a big thanks to MTG Brad for letting us use their original music for the show. And from everyone in here to everyone out there, brew a deck, play some PDH, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
Cheers.
See ya.
I brought Pauper decks to the party. Pauper. I brought Pauper decks to the party.